Alright, class at ease.
Alright, who are we still missing?
Private Tosco. First sergeant.
Roger.
Did you get a message from him?
No, I'm sorry, I was typing that. I don't see the server. Sorry, the official 506.
Yes.
Okay,
Same
hold on.
password that was typed in the chat. And please don't say it out loud.
First sergeant, I have a comment before we begin.
Send it.
Okay, so I run a snow crew, and we're getting increasing snow right now. And if the weather gets any worse, I have my guys on standby right now, and I will have to leave and you know deal with all the property management shit I do on a daily. So just letting you know ahead of time. But as it stands, we're looking okay. We got 37-degree weather right now, and I don't expect it to be sticking. It's just my current situation.
Yep, Roger. I drove a plow truck for 6 years. I know how it goes. You got plenty of time. It'll be fucking well in the evening before you end up having to go out for property management. Alright, looks like we got everybody here now. So, last week we taught you guys how to shoot, move, communicate, and sustain. Today we're going to be going a little bit farther on movement. We're going to go over some terrain rec, or terrain recognition first and foremost. So we're going to head into the classroom, teach you guys some of the different terrain that you're going to be dealing with, how to identify it, how to move through it, and so on. Going to teach you how to read your maps, as well as going into how to actually use your micro daggers, which are kind of the little GPS device that you guys will be issued. Then we'll head out to the vehicle PID range, show you guys some of the vehicles that you will see both out for and blue for. Now, we're not going to go over every single goddamn vehicle you could potentially see during an operation or FTX cycle, but we'll go over a decent amount of them. Once we're done with that, we'll bust back here for a minute and then head out to the MOUT range, which is military operations on urban terrain, and teach you guys how to move through a town, how to kick in a door, properly clear a building, and so on. Alright, does anybody have any questions before we get going?
No, First Sergeant.
No, Sergeant. No, First Sergeant.
Alright, as I said, first thing we're going to do is head to the classroom. So, go ahead and follow Sergeant Smith into the classroom. Don't forget to remove your cover. Don't worry about any radios or any of that shit right now. Just follow him into the classroom, have a seat up front, move.
Alright, left lace. Go ahead and follow me, Private Tosco. Everyone following behind me. Alright, pick up your hard card as soon as you enter, along with your eyebrow. If you have any. Alright, fill up the first row.
Alright, gentlemen, first thing I'm going to do today is go over how to actually read your maps. So firstly, and actually we are going to need you guys to grab some loadouts because I just realized you don't have any fucking maps on you. Sergeant Smith, run these guys over real quick to grab some maps from the supply sergeant.
Roger. Everyone on your feet. Squirrel Wolf, quick stand up. Go ahead, follow me. Just grab a map. And a macro dagger as well, actually. A map and a macro dagger. Your macro dagger should be found under a section for, I think, the GPS or something like that. You'll see it. Once you have found it, go outside and wait for everyone else to be done. Awesome. Go ahead and double time back to classroom. Back to your seats.
Alright, now we can get started. So, I want you guys to hit M as in Mike and open up your maps. So looking at your maps, firstly I want you to scroll all the way out as far as you possibly can. Alright, those lines on your maps mark grids. The vertical lines are known as northing lines. Horizontal lines are known as easting. So when we read a map, we read northing to easting. Alright, so in other words, we read left to right, bottom to top when we read out a grid. So zoomed all the way out like this, each one of those grids is a 10 square kilometer area. Now it's a single digit grid, so a single digit grid is a 10 kilometer area. If you zoom in where we currently are, right here where you see my yellow dot, to where you see 2 digits pop up at the top and bottom, then it is a 1 square kilometer grid. Alright, so again we read northing to easting. So the grid for where we currently are is 1616. Alright, you guys tracking on that?
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Yes, First Sergeant.
Alright, now if you continue to scroll in, where you have 3 digits along the top and bottom, or top and side, sorry, it is then a 6-digit grid. 6-digit grid being 100 square meter area. So, there's where we are in the OSUT classroom. The 6-digit grid for this classroom is what? Somebody tell me.
168, 160, Sergeant. First Sergeant.
Somewhat correct, but remember, read from the top first and then the side. So, the grid is not 168, 160, 160, 168. Alright?
Copy, First Sergeant.
Alright. So, very quick, easy thing to do. Alright, be able to read your grid. Just always remember, 6-digit is a 100 square meter area. Now, there is 8-digit grids. However, 8-digit grids aren't displayed on your map, so you basically have to guesstimate when it comes to an 8-digit grid. So, here, right on the dot for the OSUT classroom, the 8-digit grid would be roughly 1605, 1682. Alright, you guys understand how that works? You have to kind of guesstimate. So if it's 1605, you know it's midway up the grid. 1682, it's just to the east of the northern line in 168. You got that?
Yes, sir.
Or, sorry, yeah. Thank you, Sergeant O'Leary. 160, 168. So, again, with 8-digit, you have to just kind of guesstimate it. You can't get it off of your map. But 8-digit grid is the closest that you can get. It's a 10 square meter area. All right. So moving on from there. Next, we're going to go to some terrain recognition. So I want you guys to zoom out just a tiny bit and look to the west there, where my little yellow dot currently is. You guys see that?
Yes, for sure.
That's for sure.
All right. So first thing we're going to go over, these lines in a circular fashion. Those lines in a circular fashion, when you're looking at a topographical map, signify a hilltop. All right. At the top of that hill, there will generally be accompanied by a number. That number is the elevation in feet above, or sorry, the elevation of meters above sea level. So that 9-1 at the top of that hill means it's 91 meters above sea level. So when you hear us reference hill 91 or further west, hills 106, 101, 105, that's that hill's elevation above sea level. Now those contour lines that encircle that hilltop, the closer together they are, the steeper the elevation change. The farther apart they are, the lesser the elevation change. Now if you look down in the bottom right corner of your map, it gives you a key to show you the interval of those contour lines. Right? So for every 10 meters, or sorry, every 200 meters, it's 10 meters. All right? If you zoom in closer, that key will change. Every 5 meters is 100, so on and so forth. All right, you guys understand how that's working?
Yes, Sergeant.
Zoom in, the key changes.
Yes.
All right. So that is a hilltop. Now, if you move farther west, again to where those other hills are out to the west, multiple hills in a line form what is known as a ridge or a ridge line. Now, that's easily signified, like I said, by multiple hilltops in a line. Now, hilltops in a line are joined by something known as a saddle. That's the low point here in between the hilltops. All right. So hilltops and saddles together make up a ridge line. Now, coming off of those hilltops, these high points that you see here are known as spurs. The low points in between those spurs, so you have a spur here and a spur here. This low point right here is known as a draw. Now, spurs and draws feed up to a hilltop. However, a spur feeds up to the actual hilltop itself. A draw feeds up to a saddle. All right, so always remember, the spur is the high point that leads to the hilltop. The draw is the low point that leads to the spur. They all meet down at the bottom in a valley. All right, valley's pretty simple. Everybody knows what a fucking valley is. The thing that's important about a valley is that a valley is bordered by high points, generally ridge complexes, not just a hilltop. So if you have a ridge line here and a ridge line here, then that's naturally going to be a valley. Now, valleys are what we consider the road or the path of least resistance. Right? So that's where you're going to see roads, rivers, stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that's where you want to move. That's going to be where you naturally want to travel because, again, it's the path of least resistance, but it's also the most dangerous because, again, valleys are bordered by ridge lines and hilltops and shit, so you are at a disadvantage. If you are down in a valley, someone else is up on a ridge line, they have the superior ground. They have high ground on you, right? So when we move through a valley, we tend to try to not move directly in the center of the valley if we don't have to. We'll try to move midway up a ridge line like this. We won't move right down the center. Unless, of course, we're working with, like, the gun trucks, then we don't have a choice. We have to drive down the road. But the thing that's important there, and something that we'll go over later when we're talking about working in mounted operations, is valleys like this are a very good place for an ambush. And we do not ever stop a convoy in an ambush. And again, that's something we'll go over more. Now, when it comes to moving over the terrain in foot, like I said, we try to move part way up the ridge line. Now, if say there was an enemy in this valley and we wanted to move to engage them, but we're on this side of the ridge line here, we're not going to move directly over the top of this hilltop. So we're not going to move right over the top of Hill 105. Because, yes, you do that, you have high ground, you have the superior position. However, you're also exposed from all directions because you're at the highest point. As to where, if they're in this valley, you're over here, you move here across the saddle, you now at least have solid defilade on either side of you that you can use for cover while you engage the guys down in the valley. So you would set up a skirmish line in this saddle and start engaging the guys down in the valley. Now generally the way it would be done is you would move up to this saddle, set up a skirmish line, you would have a small security element on top of this hill and on top of this hill to cover your flanks, and then engage from this saddle. That way they cannot flank you from either way because the security element would have eyes on them, but they also can't engage you from any angle because you're sitting down inside this saddle. Alright, everybody tracking on that?
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes, First Sergeant. Yes, First Sergeant.
Alright. Now, if at any point in time we are moving over a saddle, or for some reason we have to move over a hilltop, we have no other choice, you'll often hear guys say, alright, take it low and slow. What they mean is, you get down on your fucking belly and you crawl over the crest of it. Right? You don't ever want to crest a hilltop or even a saddle standing completely up. Right? It then causes you to skyline. We went over skylining last week. Right? Skylining's the worst thing you can fucking do. So anytime you go over a crest or a hill, the crest of a hill or a ridgeline, saddle, anything, make sure you get down nice and low, get eyes on the other side, and then continue moving over if you're going to continue traveling. Alright, does anybody have any questions so far?
No, First Sergeant.
No, First Sergeant.
Alright, then next thing we're going to go over is a very quick, easy way to memorize all of this. Alright, Army teaches something known as the fist method, and no, it's not some weird sex acts. If you take your hand and ball it up into a fist, you look at the back of your hand. Alright, think of your knuckles as hilltops, the depression in between your knuckles as saddles. The entirety of your knuckles make up your ridge line. Your fingers coming down from your knuckles are your spurs. The depression in between your fingers are your draws. Alright, very, very simple way to memorize those key terrain features. Now the next thing we're going to move to is teach you guys how to actually use your micro dagger. Alright, so firstly, let's see if we can get the slide working here.
Oh, I just sat down there for a second.
Oh, it's alright. Alright, so want all of you guys to press H as in hotel. And actually, they're not going to be able to do that because they don't have micro daggers either.
Oh, I gave it to them. Yeah.
Alright, I'll fucking stand in good foresight. So, press H as in hotel and open up your micro daggers. Everybody see your micro dagger in the bottom left corner of your screen?
Yes,
Yes,
Sergeant.
First Sergeant.
Alright,
Yes,
excellent.
First Sergeant.
So, micro dagger is going to give you a large amount of information. Looking at that micro dagger, and since I don't have one on me, I'm going to have to look at the screen here because I don't ever use them. So, at the top of your micro dagger, right in the center, is going to give you your current in-game time, which right now is 0800 basically. It will give you your current direction you are facing in degrees in the bottom left, which right now should be somewhere around 270. It will give you your current 8-digit grid in the bottom center. That, or sorry, 6-digit grid in the center. That is incredibly useful. Alright, when someone hits you up on the radio and says, hey, what's your location? You can very quickly look at your micro dagger and bust out a 6-digit grid and tell them within 100 meters of where you're at. Next, Bottom right, it will show you the current direction you're facing in cardinal, right? Which currently is west. You know your fucking degrees. You know 270 is west. And I'm going to tell you guys very quickly, right? The 4 most important numbers to you guys at this point are 090, 180, 270, and 360. Memorize those 4 fucking numbers like it's your own goddamn birthday. Alright, does everybody understand that?
Yes, Sir Sergeant.
Yes, First Sergeant.
Alright, you guys understand what those numbers are?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Sir Sergeant.
Yes, First Sergeant.
What are they?
North, south, east, and west.
Exactly. That's your cardinal directions in bearing. Alright? 090, 180, 270, 360. Do not ever fucking forget them. Alright. So, next thing I want you guys to do is hold Control and press H. This will open up your micro dagger full screen, if you will. Alright, so hold Control, press H, and open it up, and it'll be on the center of your screen. Everybody see it nice and big now?
Yes, Sir
Yes,
Sergeant.
yes, sir, sergeant.
Alright, so the first thing you'll notice is that you can move your cursor around on the screen. Second thing you'll notice is that there's a little gray box down in the corner of your screen. That little gray box is kind of a tool to provide you information. Alright, so if you move your cursor around, you'll notice that the numbers change in that box. I want you guys to look out to our southwest. You see that little red marker that says that is denoted by 0804. Everybody see that?
Yes, Sir Sergeant.
Yes, First Sergeant.
Alright, that is what we often refer to as a Blue Force marker, or a Blue Force tracker marker, or simply BTM. If you put your cursor over that, that little gray box will provide you with all the information that you need for that marker, with exception to what it actually is. So, up at the top of that gray box, it will provide you with the 6-digit grid, 159167. The current elevation above sea level, 15 meters. Its current distance, 0.12 kilometers, which is how far? Anybody?
138 meters.
0.12 kilometers is 130 meters in your mind.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking of what I had it. Yeah, 120 meters.
There we go. It will tell you the current direction, both in bearing and cardinal. So we know it's 201 degrees south. Alright? So that little box will provide you with all of the information you need, again, with exception to what it actually is. Now, you guys probably don't know, but that marker indicates an individual rifleman that's stationary. As far as what all the markers mean, it takes some time to learn all of them. I am not going to go over all of them here with you guys, because I have no other way to do it other than fucking placing each one down individually. I ain't got that kind of fucking time. But majority of the time, when information on those markers are relayed to you, it will also be relayed what it is. However, the most important one to denote is a simple X, and actually I'll put that one down for you guys. So the one next to it there is 0807, a diamond with an X through it, that's an enemy squad. You're going to see that one quite a bit. Next one that is very important to you, and helps if I use the right one. Is that 0807, the diamond with the oval in it? That is ArmA. Right, so that denotes a tank. The only other one really of somewhat important note is that same one, the diamond with the oval through it, and then it has an X over it. That means mechanized infantry. So it's going to mean something along the lines of a BMP with infantry support. But those couple of markers are going to be the most important to you. But the thing to keep in mind here is with a micro dagger, you cannot place or remove Blue Force tracker markers. You can only view them. Those of us with Androids or tablets can place them and delete them, but that is only for squad leaders and above. As fire team members, you don't have that ability. That's fine, however. You still have the ability to view them, so you can still be just as well informed as to what's going on around you. Whether you're a rifleman or you're a team leader, you have all the same information when it comes to the Blue Force system. Now, when, say, as a team leader, you get an order to engage individual rifleman reference BTM 0804. Now, as the team leader, you would open up your micro dagger real quick, full screen, and look and see, okay, there's 0804, it's at 201 degrees, 120 meters out. Now your team doesn't need to do that. You can provide them with the 3Ds because you've used your micro dagger and done your job as a team leader to properly inform your guys. You can close your micro dagger, hit your radio, and tell your guys, hey, individual rifleman, 201 degrees, 120 meters out. You just gave them the 3Ds. Now they can find the guy and kill him. All right, is everybody tracking on that?
Yes, First Sergeant.
Yes, First Sergeant.
All right. Now, does anybody have any questions on anything we've covered so far?
No, First Sergeant.
All right, outstanding. And that is the basics as to how to read your map, terrain rec, and how to use your micro dagger. Now, again, that micro dagger, incredibly important tool. All right, it's something you want to keep an eye on. Not only does it provide you with information as to what's going on around you, but it also will show you the location of the rest of the members of your team or your squad. All right, so very important tool to fucking keep track of. A lot of the times, guys will keep it displayed down in the bottom corner of their screen. However, it is kind of big, so some guys don't like it sitting down there, and they'll just pop it up every so often to check and see what's going on. Either way, I don't give a shit what you do. Just make sure you keep an eye on that thing every so often because it will keep you better informed. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is head out to the vehicle PID range and take you guys over some of the vehicles that you will see, again, both as OPFOR and Blue 4. Alright, so on your feet, follow me out. Alright, stand by here. Alright, gentlemen, just continue to stand by. Having some issues with the fucking template here, so we're gonna have to reload it. If you need to take a piss, grab something to drink, whatever, now's the time to fucking do it.
Yes, First Sergeant. Off comms.
So how was everyone's week? Is
Pretty
everyone still
good,
here?
Sergeant.
What do you say, Fisher?
Pretty good, Sergeant.
Awesome. Y'all, I'm excited for Christmas.
Well, depends. If it's gonna snow like crazy again, not so, but otherwise, yeah.
Alright.
For the guys in the stream, welcome everyone. This is day 3 of OSUT, 3 out of 4. Today we're gonna go over mount and some other parts. We just did the classroom. I switched from the 15th to the 5 and 6th, just because the times are better and some other stuff.
Not too bad.
Well,
Welcome
the only
back.
unfortunate part is I have to do the
Team
entire
standby.
entrance
Y'all
process
keep
again.
hurting with it. Y'all could take a knee. Oh, that private task was strong inside of you four.
Sorry?
I said that you're the strongest out of those four because you're the last one standing.
Thank you.
But you took a knee.
Sorry, but I just got back. Why is everybody kneeling?
Say again?
Is that just to show that they're away?
What was what?
I just asked why everybody was kneeling.
Oh no, I was just saying if y'all feet hurt, y'all just take a knee.
Oh. Man, I'm gonna be honest too, Sergeant. I wasn't really listening.
Yeah, I literally walked back in my room and I was like, why is everybody kneeling? Okay.
I'm lazy, I'm gonna stay down. Alright, anyway,
Alright,
Alrighties.
we got everybody here?
let's continue.
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Alright, so I want you guys to approach that third flag, that's the blue one. Use your scroll wheel, go to the vehicle PID course, or sorry, the vehicle ID course.
Not currently showing us for Sergeant.
Of course. Alright, fucking stand by again.
It's the first time we have those issues with the template, by the way. But, yeah. We should be good on everything soon. This is day 3 and 4. Tomorrow is day 4. That's graduation day, and after that we are active. So expect a lot of more streams like this, also of operations and stuff, and will be fun. And not sure if you're there. Kiss my ass.
Alright, turn around behind you guys. See the blue flag behind you?
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Go there, teleport to Bravo. Alright, follow me. Alright, first vehicle we're going to be going over here is the one on my direct right. This is the BTR. Now, there are essentially 3 variations for us of the BTR. There's the BTR 60, 70, and 80. However, those 3 there's no big difference in. So, in actuality, total there's 4 different BTRs, but for us there's only 2. For us, the BTR 60, 70, and 80, all the same thing. Doesn't really matter. They're all APCs, armored personnel carriers. They're all wheeled vehicles. They all carry either a small cannon or a heavy machine gun up in the turret. They are all amphibious. And as I said, armored personnel carriers, so they do carry troops in the back of them. When it comes to engaging one of these, right, they can be engaged with pretty much anything aside from small arms, meaning you're not going to fire your fucking M4 at one. They can be engaged by the 320. Right, so you can hit one of these with HEDP and take out the tires, causing the crew to dismount sometimes. Do not fucking expect the entire crew to dismount all the time. Just because you hit this thing with a 40 mic and disable a couple tires and some of the crew hops out, don't take that for granted. That gunner could be more of a badass and just stay inside there. Alright, so again, don't take that for granted. You can also, in an extreme emergency, engage one of these with a saw. Alright, you can take out the tires with a saw. However, keep in mind, it takes roughly 100 rounds to take out a single tire. Alright, so again, that is only extreme fucking emergencies. You engage a BTR's tires with a saw. When it comes to a little bit larger weaponry, you can engage one of these with a law. It will disable or even potentially destroy one fairly easily. However, obviously, it needs to be within practical engagement range. The AT-4, these things are essentially paper fucking mache to an AT-4. You can hit it pretty much anywhere, and from distances out to a maximum of 500 meters, I've seen one of these hit, and an AT-4 will disable or destroy it. Now, when it comes to weapon squads, the shit that they carry, Maws will easily destroy one of these things. A javelin won't even be used against one. It's a waste of a fucking javelin missile. However, you will sometimes also see 240 gunners engage one of these things. Now, the reason for that being, 240 gunners carry a limited amount of armor-piercing ammo. That AP ammo can not only take out the tires, but it can punch right through the belly armor down there by the tires and kill the crew and the occupants inside the vehicle. Alright, so don't be necessarily amazed if you see a 240 gunner load in a fresh belt and start lighting one of these things up. He put AP ammo in the weapon system and is trying to kill the crew inside of it. Right? Now, as I said with this, the BTR is amphibious. Right? So don't be amazed if you see one of these things crossing a body of water. They are incredibly slow and very vulnerable when they're doing so. However, that turret still sticks out of the water. So just because this thing is fucking crossing a river doesn't mean it can't shoot your ass. But again, it is very, very slow when it's doing so. Now, sometimes you will see guys riding along the tops of one of these. And if they're dumb enough to still be on there when they're within our engagement range, feel free to light them the fuck up. Alright, does anybody have any questions on the BTR?
No, for Sergeant.
No, First Sergeant.
Alright, let's move on to the next one. Alright, this is essentially the second variation of the BTR for us. And this is the BTR-80A, or 80 Alpha. Now, all the same rules apply with this BTR in terms of what it's capable of, what it does, what you can engage it with. However, there is one big exception. What is the biggest difference you guys notice between this BTR and the one we just went over?
The turret.
That's right, the turret. This has got a big ass fucking autocannon on it. It's a hell of a lot scarier than anything they will ever put in the turret of that one behind you. Alright, this BTR-80 Alpha with that autocannon is one of the most dangerous vehicles that we will see because of that gun. Now, this thing being wheeled, it is pretty goddamn quick and pretty maneuverable. You can get around a battlefield pretty easily. The only saving grace with this thing is the fact that it is so lightly armored. Right? Because we can engage this with a multitude of weapon systems. There are bigger threats than this thing. Because, again, it has very thin armor. But the thing to remember with this is, this BTR is a much bigger threat than the normal ones. Right? We always engage the bigger threat first. So, if you were presented with two BTRs in your area, one of them is a BTR-80 Alpha, one of them is, say, a BTR-60 or a BTR-70, make sure, obviously, you identify and call up both, but make sure that you identify and engage, if possible, this BTR-80 first. And make sure you properly fucking identify it. Right? Don't simply call this out as a BTR, because in our minds, this isn't just a BTR. This is a fucking autocannon with wheels on it. Alright, so make sure you call it out, or call it up as a BTR-80A or a BTR-80 Alpha, or if need be, just very simply call it out as a fucking autocannon BTR. That way we know what we're dealing with. Alright, everybody tracking on that?
Yes, First Sergeant.
Yes, First Sergeant.
Alright, let's move on. Alright, now we have a BRDM. Our BRDM is essentially kind of like an armored car. Alright, it's very, very thinly armored, even less so than what the BTR is. Now, there are a couple of different variants. It really doesn't matter to us which one it is. However, there is one that doesn't actually have a turret on it. It's just got an opening. And they'll generally put a guy with a light machine gun or something up in there. But again, in terms of engagement, threat, so on, it really doesn't matter. They're all essentially the same to us. Just simply call it out as a BRDM. Now, this thing has all the same capabilities as the BTR, with the exception that, as far as I know, they're actually not amphibious. But the main thing to denote here is, what is the biggest difference you notice between this vehicle and those BTRs that we just went over?
Two differences. Two differences. It looks like it's less armored, maybe, and definitely only has 4 wheels instead of 8.
Alright. Well, there is actually 8 wheels, but those little tiny fuckers in the center you can't really see. So, essentially, yes, it's a 4-wheeled vehicle as opposed to 8. So do not fucking confuse these. Alright, again, BTR, bigger threat. BRDM, very thinly armored, not as big of a threat. So, when you're calling them out, make sure you properly identify them. That's what this entire course is about. You don't want to call this out as a BTR, because it's not. It's not as big of a threat as a BTR. So if someone on one end of the AO is calling out a BTR, and you're on the other end, and you call out this BRDM as a BTR, now we have to make that decision of, okay, which one do we engage and take out first? Which one is the bigger threat? Which one is closer? When in actuality, that BTR is always going to be a bigger threat than this because it's more heavily armored. Alright? So, again, make sure you properly identify these. Now let's move on to the next vehicle. Alright, first one we're going to go over is the one on my right here. That's your left. This is the BMP-1. Now, the BMP-1 is classified as an IFV, Infantry Fighting Vehicle. Now, the BMP-1 is more so designed to take on armor. That's why it has that large caliber smoothbore cannon on it. However, that large cannon can still load HE shells. That's high explosive. So they can fire that thing at ground elements, or infantry elements. However, it does have a very slow rate of fire. But, again, it can still fire at infantry. Now, that rocket up on the top of it, that big-ass white rocket, think of that thing basically as a bottle rocket. Alright, it's not guided in any way. They just kind of point it where they want it to go, shoot it, and hope for the best. But it is a big fucking rocket. So when that thing goes off, you damn well know it. Now, the biggest distinction of the BMP in comparison to the BTRs, BRDMs is what? Any guesses? What's the biggest difference between this and the BTRs?
The wheels. No wheels, but tracks, First Sergeant.
Exactly. This is a tracked vehicle. BTRs, BRDMs are wheeled, right? However, just because this is tracked does not make it a fucking tank, right? Do not call this out as a tank. It's an IFE. It is not heavy armor. It is medium armor, alright? However, because it is medium armor, you're going to engage it with less weapon systems than what you would engage a BTR with. Alright, so you're not going to fire any type of small arms at a BMP. You're not going to fire a 40mm grenade launcher at it because there's no goddamn tires to disable. So, don't fire a 40 mic at a BMP. It's retarded. You're not going to fire a saw at it because there's no wheels to disable. You're not going to fire a 240 at it. Weapon squads aren't going to fire a 240 at it because their armor-piercing ammo can't punch through the armor on this thing. You can fire a law at one of these. However, you're going to want to make sure you're pretty goddamn close and you're going to want to hit it in a soft spot. Now, I would hope common sense would tell you the nose of this thing is not a fucking soft spot. it has sloped armor. If you don't know what sloped armor is, it essentially multiplies the thickness of the armor by using angles and geometry, because if that round hits that armor at an angle, it will simply bounce off rather than penetrate. So don't shoot one of these things right in the nose with a fucking law. You want to hit it either down in the belly armor, which is down where the guide wheels are in the tracks, where you can either A, penetrate the armor, or at least B, disable the track and stop the thing from moving. You want to hit it in the rear, back where the doors are, so you can at least try and penetrate there, kill the crew and the occupants inside. Or lastly, and the best shot, is to get an elevated shot and hit it in the top deck. Alright, the top plate on armor is inherently the weakest. Your sweet spot is always going to be the top plate right behind the turret. That is the best position for you to hit pretty much any piece of armor. So if you can get an elevated shot, whether it be with a law or even with an AT-4, do it. Get up high, fire it down from above it. Now AT-4s, being a bigger rocket, they can do a little bit more damage. You have better luck at a farther distance being able to disable or destroy one of these things. But it's still somewhat the same as the law. You don't want to hit this thing in the nose. This thing is designed to bounce small caliber tank shells off of its nose. So hit it in one of the weak spots. Even with the AT-4, try and hit it in one of the weak spots. Alright. When it comes to Maws will smoke one of these single shot, no problem. Same thing with a Javelin. Any questions on the BMP-1?
No, First Sergeant.
No, First Sergeant.
No, for certain.
Alright. The next one is this vehicle to my left. This is a BMP-2. Now the BMP-2, all the exact same characteristics, with the exception being what? What is the thing you notice that's different?
The rockets, for certain.
Yeah, the rocket's different. Anything else?
The turret in general, for certain.
There you go. The entire weapon system is different from the BMP-2 to the BMP-1. Now, if you guys look at this thing, one, you'll notice, see those little tubes that you see on the BMP-2 on the side of the turret? You don't see those on the BMP-1? Those are countermeasures. Right? They can deploy countermeasures from these vehicles. Two, the turret itself, that weapon system, that big long fucking barrel sticking out there, that is essentially the exact same autocannon as what's sitting on that BTR-80A behind you guys, or next to you guys. Alright? So, we stress how dangerous that BTR-80A is. And that thing can be taken out by almost every weapon system we carry. This BMP-2 has the same fucking autocannon, and there's even less weapon systems we can hit it with. So, common sense would dictate this is the bigger threat. More heavily armored with the same armament. Now, that yellow tube up on top of it. Does anybody have any idea what that yellow tube is?
Something like a TOW, for certain.
Exactly. Right? That is a Conqueror's missile. It's an ATGM, anti-tank guided missile. Alright, it works just like what NATO uses, a TOW missile. It's wire guided. So they fire that thing off and they can fucking shoot it around corners if they want to. Those wires will guide it wherever the hell they want it to go. Incredibly dangerous to armor, but still very dangerous to us. They can park that fucking missile through a window from over a kilometer away. So this thing is a huge, huge threat. Now the thing that's important here is just like with the BTR 60, 70, 80 and the BTR 80 Alpha. You need to make damn sure that you properly identify it from a BMP-1 to a BMP-2. BMP-1 is a big threat. It's got a big ass cannon on it. However, that cannon's got a very slow rate of fire. And that missile is just that rocket is just a dumbfire rocket. This BMP-2 has a very high rate of fire with an autocannon, and it has a wire-guided missile. So it is a bigger threat. So make sure if there are two BMPs on the field, you can tell the difference between the two of them. Alright? Now, when it comes to identifying them, the easiest way to do so is those weapon systems up on top. If you see a white rocket, you know, hey, that's a BMP-1. Especially if you can get a good enough look at that turret and you can see the large cannon on it. You see a yellow tube, you're going to know that's a BMP-2. Now, there is some exceptions to that with the BMP-3s and stuff like that, but those are... A BMP-3 is essentially Satan's fucking minion on tracks. Okay, if you take these two vehicles, they have a bastard child, that's a BMP-3. It's essentially got the exact same cannon, large caliber cannon as the BMP-1, and mounted right alongside of it is the auto cannon essentially from a BMP-2. So it's got two turrets, or not two turrets, but it's got two barrels on it that are connected to each other. It can fire the large caliber anti-armor cannon, or it can fire the fucking small anti-air or anti-infantry auto cannon. And it also has a Conqueror's missile on it. So when it comes to another vehicle you may see out there, if you see a vehicle that looks like these two fucked and had a child, that's a BMP-3. Your best hope is to fucking hide in a hole and wait for someone to kill it. Alright, everybody tracking on that?
That's right, Sergeant.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Alright, let's move on. Alright, next vehicle we're going to go over is the Shilka, or the ZSU. Oftentimes you'll hear it referred to as a Zeus cannon. Now, in actuality, a lot of times you'll hear people refer to any type of AA autocannon as a Zeus cannon. I even catch myself doing it sometimes. That's not correct. This is a Zeus cannon. A quad barrel ZSU is a Zeus cannon. Alright. The Shilka, we always stress how dangerous a BTR-80A is, or a BMP-2 is, because it's got an autocannon on it. The Shilka is medium armored, just like the BMP. However, unlike the BMP, it does not have one, it does not have two, it has 4 fucking autocannons on it, which gives it an incredibly high rate of fire. Normally I would demonstrate that for you guys, but since you don't have earplugs in, I'm not going to rape your fucking eardrums. But do know that this thing can rip through 250 rounds of HE with those autocannons in about 15 seconds, if not less. This thing is incredibly dangerous. Not only to us on the ground, because as you can see, it can depress the barrel down and fire on us on the ground, but it's also a huge threat to air assets. There we go, 6 seconds. It can spit off 250 rounds. This thing is a big threat to air assets. And when it all comes down to it, without those air assets, we're fucked. So if you see one of these things, your job, first and foremost, call it up, get it properly identified and marked, and then if you're capable, fucking destroy it as quickly as possible. Now when it comes to engaging one of these, you would engage it with any of the same weapon systems that you engage BMP. It's essentially the same, think of it as kind of the same frame, but with a different weapon system. Well, really in actuality, this is an older main battle tank frame, but think of it as the same as being a BMP, but with more guns on it. Alright, so you engage it with all the same weapon systems in the same way. Now when it comes to identifying one of these things, easiest way to identify a Shilka, aside from the fact that it has an incredibly tall profile. You guys see that white thing up on top? Kind of looks like a drum skin from a snare drum.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Yes,
That's
Sergeant.
its radar. Right? You see that white fucking radar dish up there, you automatically know that's a Shilka. The only other real variation you'll see is kind of this thing's bigger brother, known as a Tunguska, which we don't have sitting out here. Tunguska is kind of the evolution of this. It looks pretty much identical, with the exception that it won't have 4 turrets right in the center, or 4 barrels right in the center there. It'll have barrels on the outside of the turret, and it'll also have missile pods. Those missile pods carry AA missiles. They can carry up to 8 AA missiles on a Tunguska. They are a huge fucking threat to air assets. They can engage and destroy an air asset from 5 clicks out. So Tunguska's bigger threat than a Shilka. When it comes to properly identifying a Tunguska, or at least identifying it being different from a Shilka, easiest way is it doesn't have the quad barrels sticking right out the nose of it. Secondly, the radar dish on it looks completely different. Instead of that white drum looking thing, it's got kind of your more traditional concave, half moon, if you will, radar dish on the top of it that just sits there and spins round and round and round and round. Alright, so it's pretty easy to identify the difference between a Shilka and a Tunguska. Now when it comes to engaging them, it's all the same. But the reason you need to know the difference is that Tunguska is a much, much bigger threat to air assets. So if you see a Tunguska and it's got those fucking missile pods on the side of it, make sure you identify that shit and send it up immediately. Alright? Any questions on the Shilka or the Tunguska?
No, First Sergeant.
No, First Sergeant.
Hey, no.
Alright, let's move on.
What are you doing, Norden?
Alright, now here is a couple of the other BMP variants that we were talking about. We're not going to really go over them because the engagement of them is the exact same. So let's continue on.
This one kind of looks like you, Norden.
We have the T-72 main battle tank, or simply MBT. Now when it comes to MBTs, there are a couple of different variations that we'll see. However, as infantry, those variations mean dick all. Alright, there's a T-72, a T-80, and a T-90, and there's variations of each one of those. But again, as infantry, those variations don't mean anything to us. We engage them all the same way. In which case, I mean, we don't. Alright? Main battle tanks are left to weapon squads and air assets. That's it. Alright? Rifle squads will not engage a main battle tank unless it's an absolute fucking emergency. Because this thing is the most heavily armored vehicle we will go up against. Laws aren't going to do dick to it. AT-4s could potentially disable one if you're close enough and you hit it in the tracks. You could disable a track and at least immobilize it. Or if you hit it in the top plate, and actually if you guys move around here to the back, you look back here in the top plate right behind the turret, you'll see those grates. That's the exhaust, that's the engine compartment right there. So if you can get an elevated shot and hit this thing in those grates, that's your best chance with an AT-4 to disable a main battle tank. But again, that's only in an extreme fucking emergency. The last thing you want to do is be shooting at one of these goddamn things. Leave it to a weapon squad or air assets. And again, the variation for us doesn't matter. So if you see one of these, just simply call it out as an MBT or tank, whatever. It doesn't matter what variation it is. That's on higher authorities to get eyes on it and decide what they're going to engage it with. Now when it comes to weapon squads will engage one of these with a Maus, no problem. That's what the Maus is designed for, as well as hit it with a Javelin. Again, that's what a Javelin is designed for. Pretty much anything, even the most up-armored T-90s can be taken out with a single round from a Javelin, even with the reactive armor. The only real big difference being some of the more heavily armored T-80 variants and T-90 variants can kind of be a bit of an asshole when it comes to engaging with the gun on the A-10, as was relayed to me via one of our pilots. I know especially the T-90s, the very heavily armored T-90 variants, it's almost impossible to kill it with a gun on the A-10. Captain Soto told me that in order to kill a heavily armored T-90, he essentially has to turn the A-10 into a dive bomber and come straight down on it and hit it with the gun. That's the only way the gun is going to be able to take out a heavily armored T-90. But luckily they have other weapon systems capable of taking one of these out pretty easily, and we'll go over those later. But again, for us as infantry on the ground, you see a tank, find a fucking hole, wait for somebody to kill it. Alright, any questions on the MBTs?
No, First Sergeant.
No, First Sergeant.
Alright. When the hell did we lose? Oh. Alright. Move over here. So these next two vehicles we're going to go over, on my left here is the Ural, on my right is the GAZ. They're basic troop transports, alright? They're fucking trucks with benches in the back and a canvas top. Nothing special. This is what we consider a soft target, meaning we can engage it with any fucking weapon systems we have. All the way down to the M4, you can engage one of these things with. You can take out the tires, you can shoot through the cab, kill the driver, the guy in the passenger seat. You can easily shoot through the canvas top, killing all the guys riding in the benches in the back if they're too stupid to dismount before they're within engagement range. Now, when it comes to identifying one of these, it really doesn't matter if you call it out as a GAZ, Ural. Majority of guys, you'll hear them just call it out as a troop transport. That's fine. And if it's within range, engage it with whatever the fuck it is you have. However, if we're, say, set up in a blocking position, stopping enemy vehicles from coming through, or we're setting up an ambush on a convoy, keep in mind, these things being soft targets are kind of like Christmas fucking morning to a weapons squad. Because those 240s see one of these trucks, they get a tactical hard-on so big they can't even lay on the ground anymore. Because those 240s will punch right through the cab and go through all the guys in the back. So if they've got enfilading fire on a convoy and they open up on one of these trucks, they can aim at the driver and kill fucking 4 or 5 guys all lined up in a row. So if you're in that situation where you're ambushing a convoy or whatever, and you see a 240 start lighting up one of these trucks, just save your ammunition. Sit there and wait for them to try and start hopping out of the back, and then drop them as they pour out of the back of the truck. But don't bother putting any rounds into the truck. It's just wasted ammunition. Alright, everybody tracking on that?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
First Sergeant.
Alright, let's move on to our next vehicle. Alright, next vehicles we're going over, these are UAZs. Majority of the time, we're just going to call them gun trucks because that's what they are. You will sometimes hear guys improperly refer to these as technicals or techies. These are not technicals. This is not a fucking Toyota Tacoma with a fucking dishcom mounted in the back, right? These things are custom built to have a gun mount in the back of them. That's what that ring is. It's a goddamn gun mount. So this is not a technical. Alright, it's a gun truck. The UAZ on my right, that has a dishcom in it. Dishcom is a 12.7 millimeter heavy machine gun. That's essentially a 50 caliber. Alright, it's a Russian equivalent to our M2, essentially. On my left is an AGS-30. The AGS-30 is a fully automatic grenade launcher. Alright. Do not, however, confuse the AGS-30 with a fucking Mark 19. It is not a Mark 19. It is not a 40mm fucking grenade launcher that US forces use. It sounds very similar when it's firing, but it is not the same round. It is not the same weapon system. So do not, at any point in time, call out that, you know, when one of these things are firing at you, that you're being engaged by a Mark 19. Because you say you're being engaged by a Mark 19, if we're working with the gun trucks, then we assume that there are friendly forces fucking firing at you, and we're about to rip someone's goddamn head off for shooting at friendlies. When in actuality, it's a goddamn Russian-made AGS-30 that's shooting at you. So again, do not misidentify an AGS-30 as a Mark 19. It is not the same thing. Now when it comes to engaging one of these vehicles, it's obviously a soft target, right? There is no goddamn armor on this thing. So hit it with anything and everything you got. That being said, obviously, gunner is a huge threat. Try and shoot the gunner first, and then take out the driver if at all possible. Alright? If for some reason you can't, I don't know any reason that you wouldn't be able to, just start hitting with 40 mics. Alright? Even HE 40 mics will tear one of these things up, because the fragments from that HE will kill the fucking gunner and the driver and so on. Alright, so even HE works on these things, where HE normally doesn't work on vehicles because it's not designed for vehicles. HEDP is designed for vehicles. HE will still work on these because they're an open top. Alright, very simple. Any questions on the gun trucks?
No, First Sergeant.
First Sergeant.
No, First Sergeant.
Alright, let's move on. Alright, now we're going to start going over some air assets. First thing we're going to go over here is the Mi-24 Hind. Now the Hind is the primary attack gunship of what was the USSR. Now the Hind is very easily recognizable because of that dual bubble canopy. When it comes to armament on one of these things, as you can see, it's got a cannon right on the nose there. This variant has rocket pods as well as Conqueror's missiles along the winglets there. There are multiple variations of the Hind. Alright, pretty much any weapon system you could think of, they have strapped to the fucking wings of one of these things at some point in time. So don't be surprised to see, you know, cannon pods, rocket pods, dumb drop bombs, laser guided bombs, fuel bombs. Again, anything you can fucking think of, they'll put on one of these things. But the biggest difference between the Hind and most attack gunships is if you guys get a little bit closer here and look inside these windows directly behind me, you'll see there's benches in there. This thing is also a troop transport. That's why the body of it is so large. So they can carry about a squad worth of infantry inside of one of these things. So not only is it a gunship, it's also a troop transport. So if you see one of these things landing, it's a good possibility that they're also dropping off troops. Now when it comes to engaging one of these, however, as infantry, we don't. Alright, we leave this shit to air assets. There's a reason that they have anti-air missiles and shit with them. Where there's an exception to that being, if for some reason air assets can't accurately engage one of these things, we have used a javelin to take out a helicopter. It is possible. Javelins will lock onto a helicopter. However, it's going to be extremely fucking rare that you see a javelin fire on a helicopter. Because those javelins, those are there to take out tanks. Right? So if we're carrying javelins, it's because we're taking on a large armor threat. Or a heavy armor threat. So we sure as shit don't want to waste it on a goddamn helicopter. That being said, again, for some reason, if air assets can't take it out, we got no choice. We will fire a jav at a helicopter. Alright, any questions on the Hind?
No for Sergeant.
No, for
No,
Sergeant.
Sergeant.
Alright, let's move on. Alright, here we have the Mi-8 HIP. Now a HIP is primarily a troop transport, which is why if you look inside the little door there, there's those big ass benches. However, it can also be turned into a gunship, which is what you see here. They put those winglets on it, and just like the Hind, pretty much any fucking weapon system you can think of, they'll strap to this thing. This one's got rocket pods and cannon pods on it. But you'll also notice, if you take a few steps to your left, we've got a normal a normal HIP back there. Notice this thing also has armor plates and shit mounted around the cockpit here. So this thing is armed, or I should say more heavily armed. It is also more heavily armored. Alright, so just like with the Hind, we don't engage this thing unless we have absolutely no other choice. Now the exception being, not necessarily this one, because it's a gunship, it's probably not going to hover. But especially the other one back behind us, when they hover to, say, come in for a landing, or if they're fast roping troops or something along those lines, you will sometimes see a weapon squad. You'll see the 240s light one of these things up. because again, they got that armor-piercing ammo. So 240s can punch through the armor on one of these things, kill the guys inside of it potentially, or majority of the time what you'll see them do is you'll see them fire at the rotors, the main rotor or the tail rotor, because they can take out that main rotor or kill the tail rotor and put them into a death spin and make them smack into the fucking ground and kill everybody. So if you see one of these coming in for a landing or getting ready to fast rope guys or whatever, and you hear machine guns start lighting these up, it's a weapons squad hitting it with the 240. Or alternatively, if we're working with the gun trucks and we got the 50s, you'll see 50s start lighting one of these things up pretty quick. Alright, because that 50 will definitely punch through the armor on it. Alright, any questions on the hip?
No, First Sergeant.
Alright, let's move on. And we'll just skip by this hip because we've already kind of gone over it. But do take note of those guns in the cheek doors. So even the non-gunship variant still has arms. Alright. Now we're going to go over some Blue 4 air assets. Alright, first one we're going to go over is the AH-64 Apache Longbow. Now the Apache is one of my favorite airframes ever made. And majority of the people have no idea how much work this thing actually does. Now the variant that we use actually isn't sitting out here, but the Apache has the nose gun, which is actually a 30mm cannon. It is outfitted with Hellfire missiles, which is one of the greatest armor-killing weapon systems ever created by man. You also have FFAR rocket pods, Hydra missiles, and then you have the A9 sidewinders that will be mounted at the end of the winglets there, that this variant does not have. The variant we use does. Now the important thing to note about the Apache, especially the longbow variant. The longbow variant is the thing that's got that big ass dome looking, or UFO looking thing up at the top there. The longbow is used primarily in what is known as pop-up attacks. Okay, so what these guys will do is they'll sit out a couple kilometers away behind a mountain somewhere, and they'll wait for someone to paint a target with a laser. They'll then pop up from behind that mountain, fire one of those Hellfires, and drop back behind the mountain while that Hellfire is still in the air. And it'll come flying in, kill the tank, and nobody will ever know that the Apache was even there. So it's generally, at least in real world, it'll be used in conjunction with something like a Kiowa. The Kiowa will spot and paint targets for the Apache. We don't have Kiowas. We tend to rely on ground troops as well as UAVs and one of the other airframes we'll go over. But the important thing to note with even our Apache, how we use it, if they're doing their job right, you're never going to see it. If they do their job properly all night, you're never going to see the Apache. And it will probably kill more armor than you will ever be aware of. So, again, majority of the guys don't really respect it as much as they should because they never see the damn thing, but just know that this Apache puts in a fuck ton of work. You're just not going to see it happen. Alright? Now, the call sign for the Apache is Warlord. Alright? These call signs are important. Make sure you fucking remember them. Write them down. Call sign for the Apache is Warlord. Alright, any questions on the Apache?
No, First Sergeant.
No, First Sergeant.
Alright, let's move on. Alright, next we have the AH-6 Little Bird. This is the MELB variant, Mission Enhanced Little Bird. Alright, Mission Enhanced Little Bird has that nice sweet camera under the nose of it. Now, for us in game, this camera that they have is essentially the same camera that Apache has on the nose of it. Works pretty much the exact same way. Full thermal, night vision capability, all that good shit. Now, the Little Bird is primarily used for recon. Alright, because of that fucking camera that's up underneath of it. Plus the fact it's not armored. It doesn't even have fucking doors on it. Okay, so it tends to sit out there a couple clicks away and just feed us with information. Again, if they're doing their job, you're probably not going to see it unless we call it in for CAS. And if we call this thing in for CAS, it has to come in closer than the Apache. It doesn't have the same range that the Apache does, so that it has to come in close. It is fitted with the same pod that the Apache has on it. However, on the other wing, it has what is quite possibly my favorite weapon ever created by a person, and that is the GAU-19 Bravo. GAU-19 Bravo is a 50 caliber Gatling gun, and it is absolutely fucking awesome. Now, when this thing comes in on a gun and rocket run, that's the only time, or should be the only time, that you see the little bird. And when it comes in, it'll come in flying what's known as MO, Map of the Earth, as low as they can possibly get, preferably below the treetops if they can. And they'll come in, tail up, hauling ass. They'll get close to the target, they'll pop up over the trees, hit it with guns and rockets, and then get the fuck out of there as quickly as possible. Right? Because again, this thing has no armor, so they have to move as fast as they can, because even something as small as an AK-47 could take this bird down with a very lucky shot. So they have to move very quick. But again, the main thing this thing is used for is reconnaissance, feeding us information. Right? Now the call sign for the little bird is Lancer. Again, call sign for the little bird is Lancer. Right? Any questions on the little bird?
No, First Sergeant.
Over, Sergeant.
Over, Sergeant.
Alright, let's move on.
The bird machine.
Alright, last vehicle we're going to be going over. The A-10 Thunderbolt 2. Probably the last time you're going to ever hear it referred to as Thunderbolt 2. Everybody knows it as the A-10 Warthog, or simply the Hawk. Now the reason it's called the A-10 Thunderbolt 2 is because, guess what? There was a Thunderbolt 1. Anybody have any idea what the Thunderbolt 1 was?
No, Sergeant.
No? Nobody? No history buffs here? The original Thunderbolt was the P-47. The reason this thing was named after the P-47 is because, much like the P-47, this was designed to be a tank killer. From day one, when this airframe was designed, CAS was in mind, close air support. This is the first airframe ever designed purely around the role of close air support. That's the reason it is so goddamn good at its job, and they still won't retire the motherfucker. No matter how bad they want to, they won't let them. Now, the reason it is so good at CAS, firstly, is because of the design of the airframe itself. Now, yes, the fucking stories are true. This thing was built around the gun. They knew from day one they were going to use that gun in this airframe. However, when they designed it, they knew that this thing would need to have a long loiter capability, meaning it needs to be in the air, in the AO for a long time. So they gave it very big, fuel-efficient engines. Those fucking turbine engines up top, I can tell you from personal experience, there's nothing else in the world that sounds like them. You can line up hundreds of goddamn airplanes on an airfield, and none of them will sound like the A-10. Secondly, the wings. This thing has incredibly wide, flat wings. Done like that so that this thing is very, very maneuverable at low speeds. Reason it needs to be maneuverable at low speeds? Because it provides CAS. This is not a supersonic aircraft. It cannot break the sound barrier. It is not capable. It is capable, however, of taking a lot of hits. This is a tank with fucking wings on it. Now, when it comes to armament, it is outfitted with AGM-65 Mavericks, a multitude of different types of bombs, dumb drop bombs, laser guided bombs, all kinds of fun shit. Cluster bombs, everything. FFAR rockets, AIM-9 Sidewinders, and lastly, the GAU-8 Avenger. Probably the most famous gun ever fitted to an aircraft. That GAU-8 Avenger is a 30mm Gatling gun that fires depleted uranium rounds. And there is nothing else in the world like it. And from personal experience, both in real world and in game, I can tell you there is nothing that is closer to sensory overload than a danger close fucking A-10 gun run. We know it. The enemy knows it as well. I mentioned the sound of the engines. I can tell you this. When an A-10 is in the area, the enemy knows what those engines sound like too. And they tend to fucking run. And when they don't run, and they hear that gun open up, then they really fucking run. Now, the A-10 that we use is the A-10 Charlie variant, and the call sign for it is Thunder. And so, again, call sign for the A-10 is Thunder. Right? Any questions on the A-10?
No, First Sergeant.
No, First Sergeant.
All right. Stand by one moment.
Freaking love the A10.
Alright, the next thing we're going to do is head over and take you guys over mounting and dismounting of the airframes that we use for air assault. Right, Sergeant Smith is going to take you guys over that. He's going to run you guys through what the different airframes are, what they're used for, how to mount them, how to dismount them properly. Sergeant Smith, go ahead and get him over there.
Roger. Alright, everyone on me. Okay, get a little bit closer. Before we continue, quick thing on your right, my left, this is UH-60 Black Hawk. Call sign Phoenix. I can carry at least a squad size and a couple more worth of troops inside of it. And that depends on whether or not they're taking up the gunner seats. And then on your left, 14 tops. It take at least 14 people in there. Thank you, Sergeant LaRue. And then on your left, this is the Chinook. Call sign Phoenix Heavy. Can carry at least 2 squads plus some few more, depending whether or not the people actually occupying the gunner seats as well. 26 tops. Alright, any questions?
No, sir.
No.
Alright.
One question.
And Chinook is more faster and maneuverable than the actual Black Hawk. Go ahead and follow me over here. Alright, so what you can see right now, these are our, yes, Private Fisher.
What was the call sign of the Chinook for correction, Sergeant?
Phoenix Heavy.
Thank you, sir.
Alright. As you can see right now, our demonstrators showing right now how they actually are boarding the Black Hawk. So if you get a little bit closer, this is basically the formation you'd be standing in, waiting on the orders from your squad leader to board into the Black Hawk or Phoenix. The fire team will be in the front, followed by his whole team, the AR, Grenadier Rifleman. And this is basically the formation that they'll be doing when they're actually in a friendly base or in a friendly environment where they know there aren't any contacts in their area. The squad leader will be right here. Getting permission from the actual pilot to board inside the chopper, or whoever is the shock leader. So once the orders have been given to the shock leader, squad leader to board the helicopter, that's what's going to be given down towards chain of command, either towards the squad leader or towards the team leader. Now, to get a little bit closer right now, as you notice that these men actually have their rifles on their hands, faced towards the ground. The magazines will be loaded, but it actually will be on safety. Once they're given the order to actually board a helicopter, they're going to raise their rifles in the air as they move to the helicopter. Now, the reason for that is that if they dismount out the bird, whatever the way they mount up into the bird is the same way they dismount the bird. So you're going to make sure that your rifles are up and ready. Alright, once you're in the bird, and you have given the order to get into the bird, you as a fire team leader, your job is to make sure you tell your men that. And then your job as a team member is that you're the fire team leader when you're in the bird. So once you mount up in the bird, you're going to say, Fisher in, Tosco in, Lantier in, Littleberry in. This way everyone knows. Once your fire team leader hears that there's 3 people at least, so let's say Tosco, you're the fire team leader. Once you hear that Fisher's in, Lantier's in, and Littleberry's in, then you already know that you could automatically go to your squad leader and your squad leader know, actually this is Alpha, we're all in. You don't have to say, Tosco, that you're in, because you're the team leader. So you already know that your own self is in the bird. Everyone understand that?
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
just using Tosco as a reference. All right. In addition to that, if you're the fire team leader, you got to make sure you occupy the 2 guns that are on the Blackhawk. To access the door gunner slot on the left-hand side, that's the crew chief seat. To access the door gunner slot on the right side, that's the door gunner slot. Now, once you're in the bird, you gotta make sure that you switch to the comms of cargo, not crew. To do that, you press your Control Windows key. Then you should see where it says intercom. No, sorry. You press your interaction key, which is your Windows key, and then you're gonna hover over intercom and then cargo. This way, you're not blaring over the pilot's ear. All right, quick house notes to this. Whenever you're mounted the bird, if your side is full, do not rotate to the other side from the rear. Rotate from the front. Does anyone know the reason why? So you guys know. You got to make sure the pilot sees you, and the pilot needs to see you when you're rotating. If he doesn't see that you're trying to still into the bird, and he decides not to wait for the order that everyone's all in, he's going to take off the bird and actually going to leave you. In addition to that, usually the tail orders are very dangerous to any infantryman. You get yourself sliced off from there, and the pilot decides to take off, he may move the bird might move backwards. You get yourself sliced off and probably KO from that. And then also, the pilot sees you, which keeps the bird to the ground, and now he knows not to move the bird forward or behind. So always rotate from the front of the bird whenever your side is full. Any questions?
No, sir.
No, Sergeant.
Sergeant Leary?
Thanks, Sergeant Smith. One comment on crossing from the front of the bird. Guys, do consider when you have to cross from the front of the bird, make sure you either, option A, you crawl all the way out of the wingspan of those rotor blades and go around, or you go around hugging the canopy. Because when those rotor blades are spinning, the end of those blades in front of the bird come down about 3 feet, and they will kick your fucking head farther than goddamn Morgan Anderson. So, make sure you either hug the canopy or back out all the way and go around. Do not cross over here, because you will get killed. Thank you, Sergeant Smith.
Thank you, Sergeant Leary. All right, and then one more last thing. Make sure the turret is facing towards the ground, not towards the air. So you accidentally ND, you're gonna put a hole in one of those orders. So once you get in that door gunner slot, make sure the actual Gatling gun's facing towards the ground and not at the air, and facing towards the front. Not at the rear, not at the center, because you're gonna end up hitting your own friendlies. So what do you do once you're in the door gunner slot?
Gun down
All
forward.
into all at once. Huh?
Gun down and forward.
Awesome. He's like a trusted Tosco once you get those slots. Alright, let's go ahead and move down towards Chinook. So the way how we're going to do this is that we're going to go to the Black Hawk on the mounting up, then loop the Chinook mounting up, then dismount of the Chinook, then dismount the Black Hawk, and then we're going to do the demonstrations on the Black Hawk, then Chinook. This way we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Alright, does anyone see how much different it is when you're boarding to the Chinook than in front of the Black Hawk? Does anyone see a difference?
Line up to the side, Sergeant.
Awesome. Yes, these men are actually in the file in a 45-degree angle from the Chinook. Does anyone know the reason for that?
Is it so that the pilot can see you, Sergeant?
No.
Load the vehicles.
Say again?
Any kind of vehicles or assets you're bringing into the Chinook.
Not only that, but there's one actual main critical thing. Look at the top of the bird. You see anything besides the rotors on there?
The exhaust.
Yes, there you go. The burners of that can actually withstand from right here. You come from over here, and this is where you're going to get burned in the exact location. So if they actually mount up in the bird in the 45-degree angle, they're out of the actual span of these burners, allowing infantrymen to actually board a helicopter quicker and efficiently without getting themselves burned. Now, initially that with them actually lying at a 45-degree angle, a whole squad would be actually on their own side when they're actually in their friendly AO. So squad would be assigned a position, either the left side of the bird, the right side of the bird, and they'll be mounted up in that location. So just imagine these guys on the right side in the 45-degree angle. Now, like I said, this is basically in theory when you're mounting up, especially when you're in the friendly AO. If you're mounting into the bird in the actual enemy location, you're gonna run to the 45-degree angle. It's still gonna be a 45-degree angle, but it doesn't matter which side your squad's in. You're gonna mount to that bird quickly. That's the same thing with the Black Hawk. When you're actually in a gunfight, you're just gonna hurry up and run to the birds the exact way you're supposed to mount up, but you don't have to worry about being in that formation that they're in right now. Just get in that bird and so you get the bird out of there quickly. Alright, so you're gonna mount the bird in a 45-degree angle, and you're gonna wait your turn to mount up. In addition to that, you gotta wait for the orders from your chalk leader or whoever your squad leader is to mount the bird. And he gets his orders from the pilot. So you're gonna wait. Once it's your turn, then you're gonna mount up. If you're the first fire team leader or squad leader, I'm sorry, no, actually fire team leader for the actual bird, you're gonna make sure that you select the door gunner slots. Either door gunner or crew chief, doesn't matter which side. So that's the first thing to make sure. And then where are you gonna face your turret at? Towards the air or towards the ground?
To the ground.
Alright, so you're gonna walk up to the bird, and two people will be doing this at the same time, but usually not at the exact same time. Get closer. You're gonna mount up. I want everyone to look at here. You're gonna mount up and click the right and back or left ramp, doesn't matter. The left ramp and right ramp to actually take you to the seats right next to the ramp. The right and back is basically gonna board you all the way to the back of the bird. Or I should say all the way to the front of the bird. And it's gonna fill up the seats from the front to the back. So if you're the last one to mount the bird, mainly you might get the wrong seats close to the ramp. Now, if two people are trying to, or if two or three people are trying to board into the bird at the same time, it's not gonna let you in, it's gonna kick you out. That's why you gotta wait in line and wait your turn. So most likely, two people would be entering the bird at the same time, and that's exactly at the same time. But at least everyone's in an orderly fashion and gets everyone the bird quickly as possible. Any questions with the mounting the Chinook?
No, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant.
No, sir.
No, Sergeant.
Alright, go ahead and follow me over here. Alright, in terms of dismounting the Chinook, you're going to be dismounting out of a 180 degree, sorry, not 1 degree, but a half circle out of the bird towards the rear. So a whole 180 degree circle would be facing towards the rear of the Chinook, and then there's going to be two guys in charge of watching the front of the bird, on this left side, and then on the right side of the bird. In theory, the first two people out of the Chinook should be the first two to actually button hook out the bird, take a hard right, and then lay down. If you dismount from the left-hand side, you're gonna button hook and lay on the ground from the left side. It is your responsibility, if you're the first two out the bird, to actually make sure you're watching the front of the bird. This is one of the reasons why we actually hold security to the front. You gotta maintain security to the front, I should say. Take it as you know. Alright, so the pilot's basically vulnerable in the front side of the bird. If we're all watching the rear security of the bird, the pilot's vulnerable from anything, either an RPG hit from the front or just a regular infantryman trying to shoot through that glass at the pilot. So we gotta make sure we maintain security in the front so that bird can actually take off the ground and pilots get back to the airfield safely. That's the reason why the first two people out that bird, you gotta make sure they button hook to the front of the bird. Alright, now if you're not the first two people, you're gonna get out this bird or helicopter. You're gonna make sure you form a half circle, and you're actually maintaining your actual security. So, if you're the first, it doesn't matter what formation you're out of the bird, just make sure you actually maintain security that's not been set. So if everyone's watching the front of the bird, if everyone's watching the northern side of this bird, which is the correct rear, just make sure that you take initiative to actually watch the side that's not being secured. So if they're all watching the north, take the western security, as you see what this guy's doing. But in all theory, it has to be a perfect half circle within outside of the wingspans of this bird. So if an actual RPG blast hits the bird, you can actually not hit from it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and open this ramp. I want you guys to actually demonstrate something real quick. Stand by. Alright, everyone mount up the bird.
Tosco in, all in.
Alright, now whoever was the practice mirror in this case will take the door gunner slots. We're all aware of that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Sergeant.
Alright, awesome. Alright, so the way how the dismount order is from the person, from the rear, all the way to the front of the bird. So if you go to the rear of the bird, you're the first one to dismount. Now the way it goes is that if you're the person to the left, actually not left, sorry. If you're on the right ramp seat, which is my left, and that would be the private Tosco, you're the first one to dismount out of the bird. And then it would be private Lentier, and then it would be the person on the right of Tosco who will dismount next. Then the person on the left of Lentier dismount next. Does everyone get what I'm saying? So it's zigzag formation, basically, where you dismount. Does everyone get it?
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes, Sergeant.
So once again, same thing as the way you turn it into the bird, you can wait your turn to dismount off the bird. Reason for that is that if everyone's trying to dismount the bird at the same time, someone's going to end up hitting the tail rotor of the bird, and the bird is going to explode with everyone inside of it or everyone near it. So wait your turn. So when you see the bird getting ready to land, you're going to go ahead and go to first person, and you're going to look to your left and see if someone's going to dismount. In addition to that, if the person next to you have not dismounted within 5 seconds or 10 seconds, and you're waiting and he's still there, then you're going to dismount before him. So you're going to break the line, but you're still going to stay within the line actually. So if Sergeant O'Leary is not there for some reason, he's daydreaming, and I've waited after 7 seconds, he didn't have a dismount, I'm going to dismount, then the person in front of me is going to dismount. So basically we're just skipping them, but we're still staying within the line. Everyone get that?
Yes,
Yes,
Sergeant.
sir.
Alright, awesome. So we're going to practice that real quick. So the bird just touched the ground, go ahead and dismount. Alright, whoever's first to, you're supposed to button hook to left and right, but I just want you guys to dismount to make sure you know what the order is. Let's go ahead and go across. Alright, now once again our demonstrator is showing you how to dismount the Blackhawk. Almost the same thing as you're forming a half circle on the side of you dismounting the bird. Now, on this Blackhawk, you don't have to worry about actually someone button hooking and watching the front of the bird. Because as you can see, this half circle can actually watch the rear of the bird, the left-hand side of the bird, and in the front side of the bird. As long as everyone's watching their security in their sector, the bird actually has the whole security. Now, if you get closer, come closer to me real quick. If you are the door gunner of the bird, so you're the last one to dismount. The reason for that is because this is a actual fighting source multiplier, so you actually can lay down some more lead than anyone else can. So you're the last one to dismount out the bird. Alright, but however, once the birds touch the ground, everyone's going to dismount. Your job as a team member is to make sure you let your flight team leader know that you're out the bird. So you're going to say, Lentier out, Fisher out, Littleberry out. And Tosca, once you hear that 3 of your men have said they're out, and you know that you're out, then you're going to rate it to your actual saying, this is Alpha, Alpha's all out. That goes for everybody else if you're a team leader. You're going to make sure that your men are out, make sure that they say it over their net. Because you're the only one else being left in the bird. Alright, once you dismount the bird, you're going to make sure to do the same thing. Like I said, the half circle within the wingspan of the Blackhawk. You got to make sure you're holding your sector. So if you dismount and someone's already holding the left-hand side, laying down and watching the left-hand side or rear of the bird, please do not lay down right next to him and do this. Just defeats the purpose. However, at the same time, you gotta dismount this very quickly. So if you dismount, see someone on the left-hand side, just go ahead and drop to the right. Get what I'm saying? We don't want two guns watching the same sector and leaving one sector open. Now, the person you see right now that's kneeling behind the demonstrators, these are basically would be your squad leader or your squad medic. The reason why he's kneeling is because he has to see where we're going next, where you guys are going next. And the demonstrators do the same thing on the opposite side. Now, one key note: if you dismount or you get kicked out of the wrong side of bird and where your team is at, do not run around and then adjust yourself to the other side. What we like to say is that once you're fucked, you stay fucked. So if you're away from your team on the opposite side of the bird, you're gonna stay there till the bird is taken off, and then you're given the order to start moving. So right now, what you're doing is that you make yourself an obvious target once you're running. So stay at the side you got kicked out of. And that's it. Any more questions on dismounting the Black Hawk?
No, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant.
Alright, let's go ahead and move on to demonstration. Alright, who wasn't the fire team leader yet?
Tosca, Sergeant.
Yes.
Tosca wasn't the fire team leader yet?
Oh, I was.
Okay, who else was on day one? I don't think there actually was one. Alright,
No one
Fisher,
else.
you're the fire team leader. Blueberry, you're the rifleman, Lantier, you're the AR, Tosca, you're the grenadier. Go ahead and form a file formation right here. Same thing you've seen at the actual Blueberry. I'm sorry, the Black Hawk. We're preparing to mount. Preparing to mount the bird.
Sir.
Fisher, you're the fire team leader. I just said that. Take the front position. Alright, would your rifles be slinged on your back or on your hands?
In our hands, pointing down, unsafe, Sergeant.
Alright, awesome. Once you were given the order to mount up in the bird, where would your rifles be, up or down?
Up, Sergeant.
Awesome. The same way you mount up to the bird is the same way you dismount. Alright, so once you get this formation, should you automatically board into the bird? Or do you wait for orders?
You wait for orders,
Wait for-
Sergeant.
Okay. So let's say Sergeant O'Leary is a shock leader. Gonna wait for orders from him. He's gonna get his orders from the pilot. So on his word, he'll let you guys know when to mount up. And we're gonna pretend you guys actually on the radio net. So Fisher, once you get your orders from the shock leader, then you're gonna say Alpha mount up. I guess he's a pilot then. Fisher board. Now you're gonna wait till your squad leader tells you. You may have a different plan. Alpha, this is actual. Go ahead and mount up.
Right, Alpha, mount up.
Pretend you're on each other's net, so you're gonna say that you're in.
Lancey's in.
And Fisher, you're gonna fire team, so you're gonna take the third gun slot once you're in.
Blueberry's in.
Tosco in.
Alpha, Owen.
Fisher.
Yeah, I heard it, Sergeant.
Yep. Alright, say it again. Say Alpha's all in.
Alpha, Owen.
Alright, go ahead and dismount.
Tosco out.
You guys are gonna lay down. and help
Let's man out.
security. And Fisher, you're gonna stay on your side. Like I said, if you get pushed out at the wrong side, you're gonna stay there. So if you're by yourself, you're gonna actually lay down right here, and you're gonna put your head in a swivel, and then watch all the sectors. Let's go ahead and try this again.
Copy that, Sergeant.
Alright, get back into your mounting position. Remember everything I told you. Wait for the orders from your squad leader or chalk leader to mount up to the bird. If you're fighting, you're going to take the door gun slot. If you're on the left hand side, that's the free seat slot. If you're on the right hand side of the bird, That's the gunner slot. You're gonna let your team leader know you're in the bird. Once he hears all three of you have said that, then he's gonna radio to his squad leader and say, Alpha's all in. When you dismount, you're gonna actually dismount the way how you're actually supposed to do it. So we're acting like this is the real deal. You're gonna dismount this bird, you're gonna hit the grid deck, and you're gonna watch your sector. Shouldn't take that long. Alright, is everyone ready?
Yes, Sergeant.
Sergeant.
Yes, sir.
Permission to board? Alpha, this is actual. Go ahead and board the bird.
Copy that, actual. Alpha, mount up.
Launch is in.
Fisher, where you point? Awesome.
Toss good.
Point the gun towards the ground.
Wheelbarrow's in.
Alpha, all in.
Roger, Alpha, this is actual. Go ahead and dismount, over.
Alright, Alpha, dismount.
Toss go out.
Last man out.
Wheelbarrow out.
Launch out.
And Fisher, good job remembering that you're the last one to dismount the bird since you're in the door gunner slot. And now look a little bit more better when you guys have your rifle and your actual loadout, because then you act a little bit stupid when you're without any weapons. I don't know why. That's something the ArmA does. Alright, go ahead and recover. One more last time. In your mounting position. One more last time. Permission to board.
Granted.
Alpha is actual. Go ahead and board the bird.
Copy that, actual. Alpha, let's mount up.
Launch again.
Wheelbarrow in.
Toss good.
Alpha, all in.
Alpha is actual. Dismount, over.
Alpha, let's dismount.
Toss go out.
Wheelbarrow out.
Launch out.
Last man out.
I think space a little bit more. Liberty, push up a little more. A little bit more. Toss can move out a little bit to the right, or you can bury a little bit. Alright, guess that's a little bit alright. My first one is Sergeant. Sorry, first Sergeant, you got anything?
Nope, looks good.
Sergeant Leary?
Not at the moment, Sergeant Smith.
Alright, awesome. Go ahead. Gentlemen, go ahead, recover. Alright, get information that you're mounting into the Chinook. Go on the left side, left hand side bird. Permission to board, Sergeant. Alright, after this is actual, go ahead and board the Chinook.
Copy that, actual. Alpha, let's mount up.
Launch again.
Toss good.
Wheelbarrow in.
Alpha, all in.
Fisher should be on gun.
Roger that.
Let's remember to take your gunner slot next time.
Copy, Sergeant.
Alright, after this is actual. This
Alright, last man out.
I just realized I fucked up.
Sorry. Alright, who's the second one that dismounted the bird? Alright, so we noticed that Blueberry noticed that one side wasn't taken, so he immediately went to the left-hand side. He made sure that at least there was some security to the front. If the second person did not take security to the front-hand side, because like I said, nobody's going to be thinking about that when you're actually going to a combat zone. But if you see someone that not taking the front-hand side of the bird and not holding security from it, take initiative and take hand that person side of the bird. It's only 4 of you, but there will be 2 squads dismounting, so you will be able to at least hold security to the front of the bird.
Yes, sir.
Now, Tosca, you be fanned out a little bit more away from the bird, so move a little bit forward. And good job. At least you're watching
There we go.
the actual 12 o'clock in the rear. Let's go ahead and redo this again. Where's the board, Sergeant? Alpha, this is actual. Mount up.
Copy that, actual. Alpha, let's mount up.
Getting up.
Lots in. Little Bear in.
Tosca in.
Alpha, Owen. Actually, this is Alpha, Owen.
Alpha's actual, roger out. Alpha's actual, dismount, over.
Copy that, actual. Alpha, dismount. Dismount out. That's...
Yep, I know. I understand. If it does that.
What the... Okay, yeah.
You're gonna have to be walking when you're doing that, because it's gonna automatically start running you. Alright, first I think they got the gist of it.
Alright, go ahead and recover up here. Alright, you guys feel like you have a pretty good understanding of how to mount and dismount these airframes?
Yes,
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Yes, First Sergeant.
Alright. Now, once you actually graduate OSUT, should you graduate, later on you'll be able to attend something known as Air Assault School, which Sergeant O'Leary here is an instructor for. It's a secondary school that teaches you more of the ins and outs as far as working with these airframes, being able to fast rope and rappel and things along those lines. So you can get even more educated on this shit. But again, that's a secondary class that you'll take later on, and it's actually a requirement to be a squad leader or above. And again, you'll be seeing Sergeant O'Leary for that. So what we're going to do now is move on to working in mounted operations, going over the gun trucks, how to work them, and so on. Alright, so follow me. Alright, first thing we're going to do is get you guys kind of familiarized with these trucks. Alright, now all the rest of the vehicles that we work with, you'll notice they have call signs. Alright, all the helicopters, all the airframes have call signs. These trucks don't have call signs. They're simply referred to by their vehicle number in the convoy. Alright, so if it's the lead Vic in the convoy, it's Vic 1. If it's the third Vic in the convoy, it's Vic 3. If it's the last Vic in the convoy, it's last Vic. Alright, so we primarily will use 2 variations. That being when it comes to the actual gun trucks themselves. Now, these ones that you see, the big 6-wheel bastards with the RPG cages on them, they're known as Cougars, right? The other ones that you will see is actually right over there, that little 4-wheeled one with that kind of tube-looking thing on the back of it. That's a GCV, Ground Command Vehicle. That tube houses a periscope camera. That is what the command element will most often ride in, because we have that periscope camera that has full thermal capabilities and so on. That is also a Cougar, but it's a 4-wheel Cougar, not a 6-wheel. Now, the other variation that you'll see, and actually I don't think we have one out here, is the RG33. It's an unarmed truck. All right. Now, the reason I point that out is oftentimes you will hear guys just refer to these as MRAPs. Somebody will say, go grab the MRAP. That is correct in the sense that all of our trucks are MRAPs. Not all of them are Cougars, however. We do use the unarmed RGs. But they're all MRAPs. All right. Does anybody have any idea what MRAP stands for?
Do such.
Any guesses? No? MRAP stands for Mine Resistant Ambush Protected. Alright, MRAPs were a design directly related to us going back to the sandbox. Alright, when we went back there and cocksuckers started setting off fucking mortar shells and shit underneath Humvees, it was very quickly realized that the flat bottom of the Humvees was causing that explosive force and the shrapnel to go up inside of the passenger compartment, which obviously we do not want. So the military asked for a new vehicle design. What we got was the MRAP. Now, the distinctive feature of an MRAP is its V-shaped hull. Right? That means the bottom of it is shaped like a V, kind of like the bottom of a boat. Now, what that does is when an explosion goes off underneath of it, it causes those forces and that shrapnel to get pushed up and away from the vehicle rather than into the passenger compartment. Now, that doesn't mean these things are fucking bomb-proof. Right? You set off a 155 shell underneath anything up to and including the goddamn Abrams, it's going to do damage. But it's much more survivable. Right? I have personally seen one of these things with almost the entire front of the fucking truck ripped off, and the guys still made it out alive. They were beat the fuck up, but they still got to go home. So, even in game, these things can take a pretty good goddamn beating. But they're not invulnerable. All right, they get hit by a tank, it's still going to get taken out. Now, the Cougars that we use, there's primarily 2 weapon systems that we'll use. We have 3 available to us, but we only use 2 of them. That is the M2 50 cal and the Mark 19 40mm grenade launcher. We have a 240 variant that we can use, but we don't really use it because, well, we're better supplied than what the actual U.S. Army is. So there's no sense in taking out a 240 when we can take a 50 cal. So that's what we do. Now, the 50 cal is primarily going to be your lead truck in a convoy, simply because of the fact that you don't want a Mark 19 up front most of the time, because you have to be incredibly careful with a Mark 19. To be fair, it's a fully automatic HE fucking machine gun when you think about it. So, I'm going to put a 50 cal out front. Now, when it comes to working in a convoy, we will put 1 squad in each vehicle, generally. The 1 fire team is responsible for the vehicle. 1 fire team is a dismount team. Now, what we're going to go over for you guys is what your responsibility is when you're responsible for the vehicle. Because if you're a dismount team, all you do is get the fuck out of the truck when you're told to get out of the truck. It's pretty goddamn simple. The team that's responsible for the truck, however, before you actually get into the server, you're going to already know ahead of time what type of truck you're taking, who's going to be in it, what order in the convoy you're going to be, so on. So you're going to be briefed on all of that before you even get in there. Once you do get in there, each person in that fire team has a responsibility in that vehicle. The rifleman is the driver. The grenadier is the gunner. The team leader is generally going to ride shotgun. He's kind of the vehicle commander, if you will, aside from the squad leader. And then the AR is just going to ride in the back. Now the rifleman. If you're a rifleman in a fire team and you're working in a convoy, first thing you're going to do when you load into the server, grab all your gear, do your normal PCCs, and then your team leader is probably going to tell you, alright, go grab the truck, get it lined up. So you'll go over, grab the M2 or the Mark 19, depending upon which one you need, hop in it, pull it out, and get it lined up on the road right outside the fob and ready for everybody to load into. Once you have it lined up, now you do need to do a radio check for your vehicle, because each one of these trucks has 2 long-range radios in it. One for the driver, one for the gunner. So, once you get it lined up, you're going to open your long-range radio by holding Alt and pressing P. So, it's Alt P instead of Control P. Alright? Once your long-range radio opens up, it looks a lot different than the short-range radio, but when you hover over keys, it has the same denotation as what the short-range radio has. So it works all the same way. Highlight the frequency, clear it out, type in your new frequency, so on. Now the frequency you're going to type in, every task force uses the same radio frequency for convoy, and that is 50. Right? Don't ever forget that. 50 is convoy net. Anytime you're on a radio in a truck, that's the frequency you're going to be talking on. Once you get your radio opened up, get it programmed to Freak 50, then you're going to do a radio check for your vehicle. Now remember, calling stations, right? These trucks don't have a call sign. You're not going to use your own calling station because you're speaking for the entire vehicle, not yourself. So, these trucks are referred to by what? What do we call them by? Anybody?
The number in which they are in the convoy.
Exactly. Their vehicle number in the convoy. So that's your calling station when you're on that truck's radio. So if you're the 3rd vehicle in the convoy, your calling station is Vic 3. Alright, so instead of saying, any station this net, this is so-and-so, you're going to say, any station this net, this is Vic 3. Radio check, frequency 50, over. And then someone will respond back to you. Alright, so it works the exact same way, just you get a new calling station. Now, once you do your radio check, as I said, someone's going to respond back to you the exact same way. You close it out the same way. Very simple. Once you do that, generally that's when everybody's going to load into the trucks, or very shortly after. Once everybody loads up, again, the gunner is the grenadier, so he's going to get up in the gunner's nest. Now, if you're the lead vehicle, that gun, your gun orientation, is to be forward. All right, so it's a lot like a fire team file, okay? If you're up front, your gun is pointed forward. If you're the number 2 vehicle, you're either going to have the gun pointed to the left or to the right. You dictate the gun orientation of the rest of the convoy. So if you're the Vic 2 gunner and you're pointed left, Vic 3 gunner is going to be pointed right. And back and forth all the way down the end to the last Vic, who's going to have their gun pointed to the rear at all times. You never drop your sector. Right? Now once they're loaded up, the gunner's up in the nest. As I said, the gunner also has a long-range radio. Now, the gunner can talk on that radio if needed to call out targets and shit like that. But the other reason that the gunner will sometimes work the radio is when we're working in convoy, the lead Vic and the last Vic have the most important job because they have to call out everything they're doing. If they're turning, then Vic 1 will call, Vic 1 turning right, and then they'll turn. Everybody else will remain silent until it gets to the last Vic, and then the last Vic will call last Vic turning right. Same thing with speed changes. Lead Vic will say Vic 1, Oscar Mike 50 kph. Everybody else will remain silent, then the last Vic will say last Vic, Oscar Mike 50 kph. Right? Lead Vic and the last Vic are the only ones that call out turns, speed changes, shit like that. Because we don't need 9 people calling out that they're all making the same turn. All we need is the lead Vic and the last Vic. Everybody else in the middle, we know they did the exact same thing. Now the reason that's important, as far as a gunner having a radio, is in order to talk on the long-range radio by default, you have to hold Control and Caps Lock, which is incredibly difficult to do when you're using Whiskey, Alpha, Sierra, and Delta to drive. Alright, so if you don't change that hotkey from default, it's a lot easier for the gunner up in the nest to work the radio than what it is for the guy driving. So you have to kind of coordinate between yourself as the driver and the gunner who's going to talk on the radio. Now the other important thing to note, the radios in the trucks always get set to speakers. Vehicle radio is the only one you're ever going to set to speakers. That is so that everybody in the truck can hear what's being said on convoy net. Because if gunners up in the nest are calling out contact in a certain direction, everybody in the truck needs to know it, because if we stop and dismount, they need to know where the fight is coming from. The only time that you will not set your vehicle radio to speakers is if you have a command element in your vehicle, which is going to be rare, but if you do, you're going to know well ahead of time, and you're not going to set that radio to speakers, because we already have a fuck ton of radio chatter going on. The last thing we need is convoy net blasting at 50 goddamn decibels inside the truck. Plus, we're probably already on convoy net on our backpack radio. So, again, you get in the truck, get it lined up, do your radio check on convoy net, set your radio to speakers, coordinate between you and the gunner who's going to be talking on the radio. Once you do that, everybody's going to load up in the truck. Now, when you're still sitting on base, if you're up in that nest, if you're the gunner, that gun stays pointed up in the air, as high as you can fucking get it, at all times. Once we roll off of the base, then you lower your gun down and pick up your sector. But if we're sitting on the base, keep that gun pointed up in the air. Anybody have a guess as to why you keep that gun pointed up in the air?
In case someone accidentally fires it so they don't hit any friendlies.
There you go. If someone NDs with one of those guns, it is very fucking bad if it's pointed down at the ground, especially if you're on a goddamn Mark 19. Alright, so make sure you keep it pointed up in the air. The opposite of what we do on the helicopters. Helicopters, you keep the guns pointed down so you don't hit the rotors. Trucks, keep them pointed up in the air so you don't hit the ground in front of you. Pretty simple. So once everybody gets loaded up into the trucks, then the convoy commander, who is the task force commander, is going to come over convoy net and issue some orders. It's generally going to sound something along the lines of, Alvix, be advised, convoy is Oscar Mike, speed limit of 50 kph. What that means is, convoy is clear to roll, and we're going to move at a maximum of 50 kilometers an hour. So what'll happen is that lead Vic, the driver, will call over convoy net, solid copy, Vic 1, Oscar Mike, 50 kph. He'll start rolling. Everybody else will follow him with generally about 100 meter spacing. 100 meter spacing is pretty much the sweet spot. You don't really want to be any closer, don't really want to be any farther away. If you're not capable of judging a 100 meter gap in between you and the 5-ton fucking truck in front of you, then make sure you tell someone ahead of time so they don't try and make you drive. Because that is one of the quickest ways to piss off a task force commander, is to have your truck right up the ass crack of the truck in front of you. So, start rolling. Lead vehicle get up to 50 kph, and then they'll hit delete on their keyboard. That will set the speed limiter on the truck. Now, a speed limiter is not a fucking cruise control. It simply limits the speed. So you still have to hold down whiskey to go forward. You just can't go any faster than what the speed limiter is set. Do not let off the fucking W key. It will stop your truck. Once you get up to speed, you just continue rolling until you're told to do otherwise. Now, as I said, once you start rolling, lead Vic will call it out. All the Vics in the middle of the convoy will remain silent. Last Vic will call it they're rolling, and you're good to go. Now, when you come into a town, if we're not going to dismount and move through the town, if we're just going to roll through it, generally the convoy commander is going to come over the radio and tell you to reduce speed to something around 25 to 30 kph. Alright, we roll through a town slower so we're safer. When we enter the town, lead Vic will call, Vic 1 entering town, 30 kph, and we'll start rolling in. Last Vic will call the same thing. Once you exit the town, you'll call lead Vic, exiting town, maintaining 30 kph. You maintain the same speed. Don't immediately fucking speed up when you exit a town, because if you do, you're going to leave the rest of the fucking convoy behind you way, way back. So you maintain the same speed until the last Vic calls, last Vic, clear of town, maintaining 30 kph. Once they do that, then the convoy commander will come over the radio and tell you to speed back up. Right? Don't speed up as soon as you exit a town. It's fucking stupid. You're going to leave everybody way behind you. And once you're rolling in the convoy, say it comes time to dismount at your dismount point, There are 3 different types of dismounts that we'll do. There's soft dismount, combat dismount, and full dismount. Now, soft dismount is what you're going to practice any time that vehicle stops for more than a few seconds. And that is, everybody gets out of the truck with exception to the driver and the gunner. So any time that truck stops for more than a few seconds, you soft dismount. You do not need to wait to be told to soft dismount. If you wait to be told to soft dismount, you're fucking doing it wrong. If that truck stops, get out. If you are not the driver or gunner, you are serving no purpose sitting your happy ass in the back. Does everybody understand that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, First Sergeant.
Alright. Next, combat dismount. When we combat dismount, it means we're in combat. So, everybody but the driver gets out of the truck, so we can get every rifle possible into the fight. However, if you combat dismount, if you're the driver and you get out of the truck, you better make goddamn sure that truck is in a good position to not only engage targets, but also be protected from being engaged. So make sure that truck is behind cover. Solid cover that it can sit behind and shoot over top of. Now, in a full dismount, anybody guess who gets out of the truck in a full dismount?
Everyone.
Everyone, First Sergeant.
Everybody gets the fuck out the truck in a full dismount. Full dismounts pretty much never happen. Not with these trucks anyways. We never decrew an armed vehicle. Right? Unless it's disabled and we can't use it anymore. If that's the case, then we'll put C4 on it and det the truck. But we never leave an armed vehicle unmanned. Right? We're not going to give the enemy an opportunity to take one of our own fucking vehicles and use it against us. So it's incredibly rare that you're going to do a full dismount. Now when we do dismount, we're generally going to pull the trucks into a formation known as a herringbone, which is what you see up the road there. Trucks pulled off the road at a 45-degree angle. Now when we herringbone, usually it will be called over convoy net to herringbone. It's on the lead Vic to decide which way the herringbone is going to go. So the lead Vic will come over convoy net and say, lead Vic, herringbone left. And they're going to pull off to the left side of the road. Vic 2 is going to, guess what? Pull off to the right. And it alternates all the way down to the last Vic. The only time it's not called over the radio to herringbone is if the lead Vic makes the decision that they are under such heavy fire that they have to stop the convoy, then they will call the herringbone. That is the only time a herringbone is called by someone other than the convoy commander, is the lead Vic. If the lead Vic is under such heavy contact they have to stop, then they will call a herringbone. Otherwise, it is always called by the convoy commander. Now, when the herringbone is called, pull the vehicle off, stop, and what do you guys think you do once the vehicle stops?
I'm gonna stop.
Soft dismount, First Sergeant.
There you go, soft dismount. Get the fuck out of the goddamn truck if you're not sitting in the driver's seat or the gunner's nest. Now, when you dismount the truck, you're going to be on either the left side of the road or the right side of the road. Stay on your side of the fucking road. Do not be the chicken. Do not cross the goddamn road. Reason being, if we dismount in contact, right, say the convoy is rolling and we roll into a roadblock, and at that roadblock there's a BTR and a couple squads of infantry that start engaging down the road at us. We herringbone and soft dismount. Generally what's going to happen, especially with armor being down in front of the convoy, weapons squad is usually going to be in like the second or third Vic. They're going to be up towards the front so they can support. They're going to dismount. They're the only motherfuckers that can cross the road. Reason being, that weapons squad leader is going to send a machine gun team across the road, and they're going to set up 240s on the rails, right? Which means right on the edge of the road. And they're going to start dumping 240 rounds right down the length of the fucking convoy along the road. And then he's going to send an armor team out to the center of the road. That armor team is going to engage the armor down in front of the convoy. Now, if that armor team is carrying a Maz, that means there's about to be an 84mm fucking rocket firing right down the center of the road. The last thing you want to be is that incredibly unlucky son of a bitch that decides he wants to cross the road and you catch an 84mm round from a Maz fucking rocket, or from a Maz tube into the side of your goddamn head. it will not turn out well. So again, do not be the chicken. Do not cross the road. Stay where the fuck you're at. However, when we dismount, move your ass to cover. Do not use the truck as cover. If there is other solid cover to move to, do it. Only use the truck for cover in an emergency if there's nothing else available. Reason being, very simple. These things are big goddamn bullet magnets. They're 15 goddamn feet tall damn near. So, a lot of things like to shoot at them. It's an easy target. The last thing you want to do is be sitting behind it when a BMP-2 decides to open up on that gun truck. Now, the last thing we're going to go over here. When you are riding in the back of that truck, I want you guys to look at this one right here close to us. Right here. What is something you guys notice about the back of that truck?
It has the plate cover for Sergeant.
Nope.
Hatches.
Nope. Guys see any fucking windows in the back of that truck?
Yes.
Only in the door for Sergeant.
Only on the fucking back door. So, when you're riding in the truck, do not be calling out targets to the guy up in the fucking gunner's nest. Do not abuse your privilege to use third person. I can tell you from personal fucking experience, you cannot see dick all from the back of one of these trucks. So do not try and call out targets that I know goddamn well you wouldn't be able to see unless you were in third person. Does everybody understand that?
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Yes, for Sergeant.
Alright. Sergeant Smith, anything you would like to point out with gun trucks?
No, for Sergeant.
Alright, outstanding. So what we're going to do next, guys, is we're going to head back to the S3 staging area and get ready to head over to the MOUT course and take you guys through how to move through a town, how to breach and clear a building properly, and so on. Now, as I said, once we get over there, it's going to take a minute for the course to load and everything. So once we get there, I'll give you guys a quick 5 minutes to go grab something to drink, take a piss, whatever. Refresh yourselves before we move on to the last part of the day. Alright, does anybody have any questions before we get going?
No, for Sergeant.
No, for Sergeant.
Alright, turn around behind you, use the flagpole to teleport to Alpha. Alright, stand by here.
Okay, Launching off comms. Launching's back.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Alright. In a second, we're gonna go to the mouth course. Stands for military operations in urban terrain, which is gonna be fun. And the breach houses and shit. If you guys want to join, by the way, check the link in the description.
Alright, Sergeant Smith, go ahead and take these guys in, get them geared up from the supply sergeant.
Roger. Alright, gentlemen.
I believe Fisher, you were the sergeant here, correct?
Yes, Sergeant.
Does everyone remember that billet I gave you?
Yes, Sergeant.
Alright,
Yes,
go
sir.
ahead and grab that from Narsto.
Should we grab vectors and radios?
Yes.
You can find a vector here and here.
Okay, thank you.
Don't forget your earplugs, guys. This is Private 1 Fisher Radio, check 100.1.
Go ahead and form your PCC formation in front of the first sergeant.
That's good. I'm up in front. Behind you. That's good. I got you in front of you.
Oh, they're all here, First Sergeant.
Alright, so what we're going to do now is head out to the mount course. So probably, yeah, we're not going to bother seeing if the flag will work, so stand by.
You guys on the radio?
Base station on this net. This is Tosco. Radio check 100.1. Over.
Can you leave me on Charlie 100.1?
Good copy out.
Alpha, this is Little Barry. Radio check on frequency 100.1.
Give me Charlie 100.1.
Solid copy out.
Alpha, this is Lon T. Radio check on frequency 100.1. Over.
Give me Charlie 100.1.
Roger, roger.
Alright. Lantier, Little Barry. You guys are Team Blue. Me and Tosco Team Red.
Alright. Blue flag behind you guys. Walk up to it, teleport to fucking Bravo or Charlie, whichever what goddamn one it is now.
Should be Charlie.
There's no teleport option, Sergeant.
First Sergeant.
First Sergeant.
First Sergeant Security Course is on this flagpole here.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, see if you can use the one back there.
Go to CQB course. Everyone should see it. CQB course.
By the way, Lantier, yours 2SC.
Okay.
Alright, follow me.
Okay.
Alright, first thing we're going to do is go over how to actually move through a town. Right now, when we move through a town, majority of the time you're going to be flanked on both sides by buildings. Right, we move along the fronts of those buildings. Now, in real world, and even in games somewhat, you don't ever move right along any wall or storefront or whatever. Bullets like to follow walls. You also have to worry about splash damage from HE. Stuff like grenades, RPGs, shit like that. Okay, so you generally want to have about a 1 meter space in between you and the wall. If you don't know what a meter equals 3 fucking feet. So essentially, think of it as kind of hold your arm out to your side and your fingertips touch the wall. That's about the spacing you want. Okay, so when you're moving down the street, if you will, even though you're not going to be on the street, you're going to be moving in a file like what you see here. Now notice that this file looks different than the fireteam file formation that we talked about on day 1. Okay, you have your rifleman up front, and then your team leader, then your grenadier, and your AR is in the rear. Now, just like with any other formation, however, this is entirely fluid. Okay, if your best point man is fucking AR, then put him on point. If he's the best guy in a mount situation to be up front, then put him up there. Now, generally, like I said, rifleman, team leader, grenadier, automatic rifleman. The reason the automatic rifleman's in the rear, he's got rear security. Now, just like with a normal fireteam file, this does not mean you're fucking walking backwards through a town. It means when you stop, you spin around and check the rear. Now, guys here are all crouched. Majority of the time, you're going to be standing up. However, if say these guys were engaged from the front. That point man needs to immediately go prone or at very minimum crouch. That way the number 2 guy can spin and fire over top of him. Because remember, we don't fight fair. So if we can put 2 rifles on target, then do it. If we can put 3 rifles on target, do it. Now in order to put 3 rifles on target, then that point man would have to go prone, number 2 crouch, and then the number 3 man would have to be standing. But if you do that, that means that number 3 man isn't covering his sector. Now the last man has the entire fucking from 9 o'clock back to cover himself. So it is a lot more dangerous to do that. So it's going to be threat dependent on whether you have all 3 guys start engaging towards the front or not. Now they're normal sectors, just like a normal file, but obviously you have a wall next to you, so you don't need to cover that side. Not, until there's an opening, obviously. So that point man is covering the front, number 2 man is covering 10 o'clock, number 3 man is covering around 9 o'clock, last man covers rear when you stop. Now, while you're traveling, should you come to an LDA, something like a doorway or an opening into a courtyard like what you see here, there are a couple different ways to cross that LDA, right? There's fucking any number of ways, but one way to do it is this point man, and this is known as flowing, okay? So if you're gonna flow across the street, flowing around the corner is a little bit different, but say you're gonna flow across this opening. So what would happen is this point man is gonna crouch and come up to this corner and peek around it. So he'll be up on this corner like this, leaned out, and he'll be sitting like this, covering this opening. So then the number 2 man, who would be the team leader, would immediately cross. Now once he crosses, he's just going to keep moving. Okay, this is where it becomes flowing. Right, so if I was number 2 man, the point man was right here covering this opening, I would get up, move across the opening, and I would just keep moving down here. Now I keep moving. Once I'm across this opening here, number 3 man follows me, and then the last man follows me. Once the last man is across, this guy picks up and just starts moving across, right? Nobody covers his crossing. That is the quick way to cross an LDA in a town. But it is more dangerous because that last guy has to cross with no cover. Right? So that's what you do if you're moving quick, there's no immediate threat. If there is an immediate threat, if you've heard gunfire, say, you're crossing an intersection of a road and you've heard gunfire down that intersecting road, then the number 2 guy, instead of continuing to move once he crosses, he's going to stop right here and set up security on this corner just like this. Number 3 man is going to cross and keep moving. Last man's going to cross and keep moving. Then that point man is going to cross, keep moving, and then I pick up and move behind him. So now your formation has changed as far as the order, right? So that's where, again, you guys need to be fluid because your formation is going to be changing constantly when moving through a town. But those are the 2 main ways to cross a danger area. Either you flow when there's little threat, or you set up full security when there is a threat. All right, you guys tracking on that?
Yes,
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Yes, First Sergeant.
All right. Now, when it comes to you need to breach a compound, okay? There's a couple different ways to breach. Now, well, actually, before we go over that, real quickly, when we move through a town like this, the staggered column that we went over on day 1, okay, where you have guys on either side of the road. Oftentimes, that's how we'll move through a town, not necessarily in a staggered column, but you'll have one team on one side of the road and another team on the other side of the road, okay? Now, we have this team here. Say there's another team over there directly across from them. These guys here, number 2 and the number 3 man, they're not going to be looking directly across from them at the guys on the same plane as them. Because if they do, then they're going to be flagging their friendlies. What's it mean to flag your friendlies?
Point your rifle at them.
Point your rifle at them. You never flag a friendly. So, these guys, instead of covering ground level, they're going to be covering up above the team across from them. So they're going to be moving down the street like this, looking up above the team across from them. Same goes for the guys on the other side of the street. Guys back there would be looking up above this team here, because this team can't see the windows and shit up above them. Now, that also goes, say, these guys have this opening here. Now, the team on the other side of the street can get a better angle into that opening. They can pie the corner. Alright, now what it means to pie the corner, normally, if you're up against the wall, you would lean out like this and just kind of make yourself a nice big angle and pie the opening. But the further away from the wall you are, the better angle you're going to have. The more view you have while exposing less of your body. So, if these guys were moving here and came up to this opening and their other team in the squad was across the street, these guys would hold short, stop right here, and the point man of the team over there would be able to sit over here across the street, and he would be able to pie that opening a lot better than the guy right up against the wall. Right? Now, if he were to pie that opening, and he were to say, get a view of the right side of the house here, go ahead and move over here where you can see. Move over here. Let's go. Now, if the guy across the street were to see at the right corner of that building there that there was someone standing there with a weapon, what do you guys think he should do?
If we can take him out for a session.
Take him out, so he should engage him?
Yes, sir.
What do you think, Lantier? You were about to say something.
Is it just a person with a weapon? Is it pointed at him? If it's not pointed at him, then
it's a known
I
enemy.
engage. No, if it's a known enemy, then oh, you know what? No, because you'd be shooting right across your friendly's basically head on the wall.
Well,
You'd probably call it out.
I appreciate the sentiment of not wanting to shoot friendlies. You're both somewhat correct. Okay? You would engage him. However, if I'm standing out here and I'm engaging the guy at the corner of that house, what is my biggest problem?
You are in the open for the sergeant.
I am in the fucking open. I have no cover, no concealment. So I'm not going to just stand here and trade shots with him. Alright, we do not get in fucking gunfights. This is not the OK Corral. Your name is not Wyatt fucking Earp. So he would engage. Let me run back over here. He would engage while he's falling back behind that wall. Okay, so he would essentially just return fire at the guy and fall back behind the wall. And he would then feed that information to the team over here and let them know, alright, you got a contact in there, near side corner, or near corner of the house. And then the team leader over here would take it from there. Then it would be on them to breach, because those guys over there aren't going to cross back in front of this opening. Because the enemy inside already knows there's someone across the street. So they're going to sit there and wait for this team to breach. Right? They're not going to cross the threshold here. Now, this entire area, from this column to this column, anybody have any idea what it's known as? What the nickname for it is?
The fatal funnel, First Sergeant.
Fatal funnel. Anybody have a guess as to why it's called the fatal funnel? No? Reason being, because every bullet in that fucking area is about to funnel out that opening and kill your ass. You spend as little time as possible in the fatal funnel. Do not ever sit still inside the fatal funnel. You will fucking die. So, whether the team across the street pied the corner, or if there wasn't a team over there available, and this guy right here pied the corner, and there was someone there, they engage while they fall back. This point man would fall back into his stack once he engages. Now his stack is his file. So now they know they need to breach. They're going to call their sets. Okay, when you stack up, you call sets. Okay, so point man is going to call 1 set, 2 set, 3 set, last man set. That's important. Last man set. It doesn't matter if there's 2 of you or there's fucking 10 of you. Whoever the last guy is in the stack calls last man set. That lets the guy on point know everybody is ready to go. Generally, you want to call your sets over the radio, because if you're in the middle of a big-ass town, there's a bunch of firefights and shit going on, you can't guarantee they're going to hear you. So calling your sets over the radio, always a good idea. So, 1 set, 2 set, 3 set, last man set. Now you wait. Once I call last man set, that does not mean you go charging their balls to the fucking wall. Alright? Now it's on the team leader, again, generally the number 2 guy in the stack, to decide how you're going to breach. Now, say in this instance, you know there's a hostile in there. There are 2 ways you can breach. You can either grenade it first, or you can just do a normal breach and run in there. Now in a normal breach, once they all call set, then the stack leader, who is the team leader, would call breach. That does not mean you move yet. That simply lets the other guys in the stack, the number 3 and the number 4 man, know to turn and face front. Be ready to move. Once that stack leader calls to breach, it's now on the point man to dictate when you breach. So that point man is going to call breaching, going left, or breaching, going right. Okay? Then he moves. Just like with anything else. Okay, you say what you're doing, wait a hot second, and then you fucking do it. So, point man always calls his direction. Reason being, number 2 man's going to go the opposite direction. So if this point man calls breaching, going right, he's going to do what's known as a button hook, meaning he's going to kind of do a U shape around the wall that he's on.
User
he's
left
go
your
right.
channel.
Number 2 man is going to call going left. Number 3 man going right. Last man going left. Alright, pretty simple. But you always need to call the direction you're going. So if you were to do a normal breach on this, again, point man calls breaching going right, he goes right. Next guy goes left. Number 3 man goes left instead of right. What do you do? Anybody have a guess? If you're the number 3 man and you go left when you were supposed to go right, what do you do?
You keep
Call
going.
it out.
You keep going. You stay on the left side. It's now on the last man, the number 4 man, to go right. He has to recognize your fuck up and fix it. Alright? If you're wrong, stay wrong. Always remember that. Doesn't matter what the fuck you're doing. If you're wrong, stay wrong. Do not try to immediately fix it, because it's most likely going to make things worse. Let someone else make up for your fuck up. Reason being, if you went left and you were supposed to go right, and you realize it, you go, oh shit, and try to go right, what's going to happen? You're going to run back across that fatal funnel, probably run into the number 4 man trying to come into the door. Now, if there's an enemy in there, he's got 2 targets instead of 1. All lined up for him. So again, if you're wrong, stay wrong. Okay? Now once you breach, you're going to set up on your entry walls, do your sweeps and stuff, and that's something we'll go over in a second. But that's a normal breach, okay? Call your sets. Stack leader calls breach. Point man calls breaching, and what direction he's going, and you go. Now that's generally used when you don't know for sure that there's an enemy in there. If you know for sure there's an enemy in there, you're going to grenade it first. Now, there are 2 different grenades we can use. There's a frag grenade and there's a flashbang. Now, who can tell me why generally you're not going to want to use a frag grenade?
You don't know if there's civilians in there for certain.
Exactly.
Shrapnel's a bitch.
Without actually being in the room or in the compound, whatever, you don't know exactly what's in there. So a frag grenade is always the last option. If you have no other choice, then you frag. Otherwise, you throw a flash. Now when it comes to putting a grenade into the room, into the compound, whatever, despite what you may think, the point man is not the one that throws the fucking grenade. He's the security guy. He's holding security on that door, on that opening, whatever. So it's on the number 2 guy to step out and throw that grenade. So he's going to step out from the wall and kind of pie the opening, just like the point man did. and then he's going to throw the grenade into the door, and he'll call frag out, flash out, whichever it may be. Now, if it's a frag, it's going to be a couple seconds before it goes off. If it's a flash, it's going to be about a second before it goes off. Once that thing detonates, whether it's a frag or a flash, that's your cue to breach. Right? So, as a number 3 or the number 4 man, you're not waiting for the team leader to call breach to turn around. As soon as he steps out to throw that grenade, you turn around and you get ready to go, because when he throws that grenade and falls back into the stack, as soon as that thing detonates, you're going. So you have to be ready for that. Once it detonates, point man's going to call breaching going left and go, or breaching going right and go. He's not going to fucking wait. And then you breach in there and do your normal gig. Now, the reason we generally use flashes, again, because you don't know what's in there without, actually being in the room. But again, the exception, if you don't have any other choice. So say you pied it and right inside, say that house wasn't there behind us, it was actually a machine gun bunker. And there was a fucking heavy machine gun mounted there. You're not going to breach into a fucking compound that's got a heavy machine gun watching the opening. You're not just going to go running in there. And a flashbang may not work. So you throw a fucking frag grenade, because the threat is large enough to outweigh the possible consequences of that frag grenade. Alright, is everybody tracking on that?
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes, First Sergeant.
Alright, so once you breach, okay, go ahead and move in here. Alright, now turn around and face the opening. So when you breach, if I was the point man, and I were to come in, if I were to say I was breaching going right, I'd button hook around the corner and clear my near corner first. Right, near corner is the corner of the wall of your entry wall. Okay, so you button hook around, clear your near corner. You keep moving. Do not ever stop, especially anywhere in this area. So you clear your near corner, turn, clear your far corner, all the while moving down the length of the fucking entry wall. You never stop. Now, what fucks a lot of people up is, say I button hook around this corner and there's a guy standing right here where Lantier is. What do I do?
You keep moving, but engage him. First Sergeant.
You move through the contact. Right? When we breach buildings and shit, we always flip the fun switch on the M4. So you got full auto. And I have done this multiple times. So when you come around the corner here, if there's a guy right there, I'm going to dump 3-4 rounds into him while I'm moving. I'm never going to stop. It's going to be one fluid motion. So I'm going to come around the corner, 3-4 rounds, and hit my near corner, and then far corner. Right? It is something that takes practice. But the main thing to point out there is, if I get here and see a guy, I'm not going to stop right here, shoot him a couple times, and then keep moving. Because that's going to cause a fucking traffic jam in the door or whatever. So you just zip them real quick with the rifle, and you keep moving the entire time. Now once you get down to your corner, number 1 and the number 2 guys are the corner guys. Alright, so I cleared the near corner as soon as I came in. As I moved down the wall, I cleared the far corner. Once I get into the near corner, I aim towards the center of the room, or I sweep across to the center of the room. Now by the time I'm in this corner, the number 3 and the number 4 man should already be in the room. Now when the number 3 man comes in, he's going to be the guy right behind me. When he comes in and goes right, he doesn't need to clear the near corner, because I'm already standing there. I'm already in the corner. So he's immediately going to go to the far corner. So when he comes in, I'll turn my laser on real quick so you can see it a little bit better. When he hooks around this corner, instead of going all the way to the near corner, when he hooks around, he's immediately going to look at the far corner and then turn and look to the center of the room. And then he's going to stop right about here where you see him, about midway down the entry wall. He is not going to move all the way to the corner. You don't want to be sitting right on top of each other. Same goes for the other side. Number 2 man, when he comes in and goes left, he goes across like this, clears the near corner, far corner, and then sweeps into the center of the room as he hits the corner. Number 4 man comes in, hits the far corner, sweeps into the center of the room, and holds. Now the number 3 man and the number 4 man, once they do their initial sweep into the center of the room, they stop. That's where they hold their rifle. That's their point of aim, is the center of the room. The number 1 and the number 2 man, they're the corner guys. So when they hit the corner and they sweep into the center of the room, they then sweep back. That's a primary and a secondary sweep. So your primary sweep is going from the far corner to the center of the room, and that's just a quick sweep across the room, make sure there's no obvious threat for you to engage. Your secondary sweep is where you're going to check, in this instance, where you're going to see if that door, see if there's anybody in the door, see if there's anybody in the window, at the very corner of the house peeking around, shit like that. That's where you're going to clear your hides. Okay, so hides somewhere an enemy can hide. Once you get done with your secondary sweep, you're going to be facing back down the long axis of the wall that you're on. Okay? Once you're done with that secondary sweep, that's when you call your side clear. Corner guys are the only ones that call their side clear. So that's the number 1 and the number 2 man. Whichever one calls their side clear last is the one that calls the room clear. No one else. So if these guys were to breach, get in here, and this guy behind me, the number 2 man, he calls left clear. Number 1 man over there calls right clear. Then he calls room clear. And then you move up. You do not move a fucking inch until that room is called clear. Unless the stack leader or the team leader calls to push further into the room. In an instance where, say, like this compound, if instead of a house was there, there was like a destroyed vehicle or something where someone could be hiding behind it, then in that case, you can't call the area clear because there could be somebody hiding behind that car, prone or something. So in that case, you call left clear, right clear, and then the team leader would call push up or go deep, something along those lines, and you're going to push deeper into the room to clear out that hide because you can't see it from where you're at. Now there are 2 different ways to push in a room. The one that's generally going to be used is the corner guy is going to push directly down the wall like this. The guy behind him is going to push down behind him and looking at an angle like this. Now, if say that house, again, was a car instead, this point man would still be facing forward, but when he gets to that hide, he's essentially going to pie it. So he's going to move like this around it. However, what's the problem with that? If I'm the point man and there's a guy behind me and I'm looking behind that hide, what's the problem?
The front is not covered, First Sergeant.
The front is not covered, exactly. So if I'm this guy behind and my point man now essentially has my sector because he's covering the right, I can't do anything to the front because he's right in front of me. So what do you think that point man should do? Kneel, exactly. So if I'm that point man and I'm up here and I get that hide, I'm going to crouch and lean out like this and clear that hide so that the guy behind me can cover over top of me and cover our front. All right, is everybody tracking on that?
Yes, First Sergeant.
Yes, First Sergeant.
All right. Now the other way to move through a room or move through a large courtyard like this is to push online. And that's the way we were taught to do it. But moving online in an area like this is very difficult to do in ArmA because you don't have the same situational awareness. You can't hear the footsteps and stuff, and you don't have the same peripheral vision as what you do in real life. But it can still be done. Now what it is to move online is you breach in like this, you're lined up just like these guys are. When they tell you to push, instead of moving down your entry wall to the corner and then moving up your long axis wall, you would simply move directly forward. And you guys would all stay essentially shoulder to shoulder with each other. Now that's the safest way to push forward in a room, but again, it's not the easiest way to do. And majority of the times you're not going to do that inside of a building because most buildings in ArmA aren't fucking large enough to have all 4 guys in a room moving forward online. Actually, most buildings in ArmA aren't even large enough to do a 4-man breach. You only do it with 2 guys. That's all you need in there. All right, is everybody tracking on that?
Yes,
Yes,
Sergeant.
First Sergeant.
All right. So, does everybody feel they have a decent grasp as to how to stack up and how to breach?
Yes, First Sergeant.
Yes, First Sergeant.
All right, well, let's hope you do, because you guys are about to practice it. It is going to be a dry run, though. You aren't going to be fucking shooting at anything, so follow me across the street. Private Fisher, question.
One more question, First Sergeant. When you're breaching, should you be like the jogging mode or in the walking mode?
It's very dependent. It is not necessarily safer, but it is easier to breach if you are walking like this, because you have less chance of getting hung up on doors and stuff like that. But it is more dangerous in the sense that you're moving slower, so you clear the fatal funnel slower. Right, so it's going to be entirely up to you and the guys that you're working with. Some guys are perfectly fine with being able to, breach while jogging. The main thing to keep in mind is that you have your weapon up. Alright, you have your weapon ready to fucking fire. Especially if you're at a jogging pace, because if I'm moving around like this with my fucking weapon down and I have to raise it before I can fire, it kind of defeats the purpose. Alright, make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Alright. Come out here real quick. One last thing to go over before we actually practice this. Alright, so say I was in a team and I was getting ready to breach this compound here. Alright, so we stack up. And what is one thing you notice about where I am stacked up?
It's
Corner.
it's like 1 meter in front of the corner for a second.
Yeah, there you go. I'm not right up on the threshold of the opening. Anybody have a guess as to why that is?
Don't want to peek your barrel.
There you go. You do not ever want to have your barrel out here past the threshold of the opening. Alright? You do not want to over penetrate the doorway. Very simple way of remembering this. At all points, you think of this rifle as your dick. If you would not put your dick in that opening, don't put your fucking rifle there. Is that understood?
Yes,
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
You never lead with your barrel. It's the worst thing you can possibly do. Right? Well, kind of lead with your barrel, but not in the sense that you stick it out there long before your fucking rest of your body. So, when you stack up, make sure you're a couple feet back from the threshold, because once you break that threshold, that means you're going in the fucking room. Alright, same goes for when you're pieing. Majority of the time, when you pie an opening, again, you're going to be back here, and you're going to get out as far away from the door, or the wall as you can. Once you get here, that's it. You don't pass this threshold, if you can. Alright, reason being, you get out here, and say there's an enemy at that corner. What's the problem?
You have no cover for a second.
Got no cover. Alright, you're out here in the center. You either have to move all the way the fuck over here to this wall, or fall all the way the fuck back here to this wall. Alright, so again, when you're pieing, try not to cross that threshold if you can. Alright, move over here, get set up to do a couple practice runs. Alright, so you guys stack up on the wall here. Now you guys are just going to do a normal breach. You're not going to do a flash and breach or anything like that. This is just to get through the motions of it and know that everything's alright. Okay, go ahead and stand up. You guys can stand up for this. You don't have to be crouched. Again, this is just to go through the motions and make sure you're fucking understanding it. Alright, so once you're ready, call your sets. Fisher, you're going to be calling when to breach. Little Barry, you're the point man, so you dictate the tempo. You dictate when to breach, what direction everybody's going. Alright, make sense to everyone?
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Yes, first sergeant.
Alright, when you guys are ready, make it happen.
And you, Little Bear. 2 set.
1 set.
2 set. Tasco.
Gentlemen, you go in numerical order. 1 set, 2 set, 3 set, last man set. If you're number 3 and number 2 hasn't said anything yet, keep your fucking cock holster shut until he does. Let's try that again.
1 set.
2 set.
3 set.
Last man set.
Right, preach.
Fine. Okay, there's a building with 2 doors.
Roger. Breach left.
Okay, I'm gonna go in.
Hold. Alright. I didn't tell you to pie it. We're just going through the motions of breaching. We'll go over pieing in a minute.
Okay, copy that first.
Fisher, you don't dictate which direction he goes. He's the point man.
Copy that first.
He's not, once you call breach, this is his stack. He decides what you guys are doing. Go again from the top.
1 set.
2 set.
3 set.
Why am I looking
That's
at
my
the
set.
barrel through the fucking opening? Try it again from the top.
1 set.
2 set.
3 set.
Last man set.
Breach.
Going in. Going left.
Going right.
Clear left.
Clear right. Right. Line push up.
You did not. Nope. Stop. Stop. Right here. What the fuck are you doing way down here? This is not midway down the entry wall.
Oh,
What
sorry.
the fuck happens if some asshole is in that window and starts lighting you guys up?
You're gonna die.
Gonna die. Alright, move your asses back outside. Alright, I don't know if you guys are on Whisper or if you just don't know how to use your fucking big boy voice, but I sure as shit did not hear number 3 man and the last man call what direction they're going, so you better learn how to pipe it the fuck up. Alright. That wasn't horrible. You guys cleared your corners, moved down your walls, with the exception Lantier moved a little bit too far, but that wasn't horrible. Okay? You guys called your sides clear, and then you were ready to push up, so that was done correctly. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to roll in pieing with it. Okay, now you pie before you call your sets. Right, once you call your sets, that means you're set ready to fucking breach. So you pie it first. The little berry's going to pie. Now, just like you were doing beforehand, the whole purpose of pieing and opening is to see what's in there, not only for yourself, but the rest of your team. So once you get a peek in there, you relay all the information that you gathered from that little glimpse to the rest of your fucking team, so that they know as much as you do. Alright, so go ahead and take it from the top. Little berry, you're going to pie. Once you pie, fall back to your stack, relay that information, and then we'll try the breach again.
Fine.
Why are you in the center of the fucking funnel? Do not cross that goddamn threshold.
Okay, we have a courtyard with a house with windows and doors facing this way.
Roger.
One set.
2 set.
3 set.
Last man set.
Breach.
Okay, going in, going to the left.
Going right.
3 left.
Last man right.
Left clear.
Right clear.
Alright, that wasn't bad, but you need to pick up the tempo a little bit. As soon as you fucking fall back into that stack, relay the information, that team leader, it's going to be on you. That's when you're going to dictate what type of breach you're going to do. Okay, so once he pies it and falls back into the stack, relays the information, you're going to say, Roger, get ready to breach. Once you say that, as soon as he says that, Little Berry, start ripping off your sets. Once all your sets are good, as soon as he says last man set, Fisher, you call breach. Little Berry, breaching, going left. And then you go. Right, that quick. Everybody tracking?
Yes, sir.
Yes, per turn.
Alright, let's do it again from the top. Pie it first.
Pine. Okay, we have a courtyard with a house with windows and doors facing our way.
Copy, get set to breach.
One set.
2 set.
3 set.
Last one set.
Breach.
Reaching, going left.
Going right.
One left.
Last man right.
Left side clear.
Right side clear.
I didn't have my rifle up.
Didn't have your weapon at the ready. You would have came in and had to engage, you would have had to stop first.
Yep.
Always fucking be on top of that, guys. Alright, move back outside. Alright, the last thing we're going to go over. When breaching, especially buildings, as I was saying earlier, majority of the buildings, you don't need 4 guys inside the building to breach. Alright, you guys can lower your weapon, drop your sector. Fucking look at me. You don't need all 4 guys to clear most buildings in ArmA. Okay, you can do it with 2 guys. When that is the case, you'll generally hear someone call, the phrase a lot of times is used called short room. That just lets everybody know you don't need everybody in there. Okay, you can do it with just 2 guys. So the point man and the team leader would go in. The other 2 guys would hold security. Alright, so they would stay outside the room, setting up security, making sure nobody comes in behind them, nobody else comes out. Alright. Again, that's majority of buildings in ArmA. You're only going to need 2 guys. But if you can do a 4-man breach, you can fucking do a 2-man breach. Okay? Now, deciding whether or not something is a short room is pretty easy, right? Work off of your common knowledge. Okay? Most fucking entry doors to a building are around 36 inches wide. You can base the face wall of that room or the face wall of that building upon that knowledge. General door and window are going to be about 3 feet wide, so you can base how large that room is going to be, at least width-wise, on that. You're outside the building, so you can see how long the building is. So you're going to be able to very easily judge whether you're going to need 2 to 4 guys inside that building. Alright, does that make sense to everyone?
Yes, it's such.
Yes, correct subject.
Alright. Now, the last thing, when it comes to actually being in the building and so on, is when you exit. When you leave a building, before you step out that fucking door, always call out, preferably on yelling, how many friendlies are coming out. So if there's 2 of you that went in that building, before you fucking cross that threshold to come out, you say 2 friendlies coming out. And then you exit the building. Reason being, if your buddies are outside set up with security, and 3 of you come out and you called 2, they're going to shoot the 3rd motherfucker. Because that may be a fucking enemy trying to be sneaky and shoot you guys in the ass as you exit the building. So always make sure you properly call out the number of guys coming out. Now, in real life, when you exit a building, you're going to say, 2 friendlies coming out, and then you'll wait for the response of come out, and then you'll exit the building. Don't really do that in ArmA, but just keep that in mind. If you say 2 friendlies coming out and you hear someone say come out, that's just them letting you know, hey, yeah, go ahead and come out. We know you're there. Same goes for if you're entering a building that has friendlies in it. Before you enter the fucking building, say friendlies coming in and how many. So say, 3 friendlies coming in and then go in the building. Don't just go fucking running in a building that you know has guys like friendly troops inside of it. Because there's a good chance there's a dude sitting on security at that fucking entry door, and you just go running in there, he's gonna fucking shoot you. So call out, 3 friendlies, 2 friendlies, whatever, coming in. Again, in real life, you would call, 3 friendlies coming in, they would say come in, and then you would go. The same goes for going upstairs. If you know there's friendlies upstairs, say coming up, come up, and then you go. Alright, make sense?
Yes, it's such.
Yes, correct sergeant.
Alright. Does anybody have any questions on any of the shit we have covered here as far as breaching and clearing, moving down streets, so on?
No, first sergeant.
No, first sergeant.
Alright. And that's where we're going to end it today. Now, there is a lot more to learn on this. Okay? There are guys that train their entire fucking lives on CQB. I've spent a lot of fucking time training in this. It is something that you will never master, but you will continue to train on for a long time. That being said, do not be afraid to practice this yourselves. You guys hop on the fucking assault server or whatever the hell it's fucking called. Practice it over and over and over. Even if it's not a fucking enemy structure, there's no one in it, whatever, still practice your sets and your breaches. Because Mount is hands down the most dangerous goddamn thing we will do. So it is something you will want to spend a lot of time doing. Does everybody understand that?
Yes, for certain.
Yes, First Sergeant.
Yes, sir.
Alright. Then that's going to be it for today. Tomorrow, be here on time. Be ready for your FTX. Tomorrow is day 4. We're going to throw you out there in the field and see how you guys actually do in the field for a live training exercise. Once we're done, we'll debrief, critique your performance, and go from there. Alright? That's it for today. You guys are dismissed. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday afternoon.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sergeant.
First Sergeant.